Yeah.
All right, today is October 27th, 2020. We'll call this regularly scheduled meeting into order of the Boyle County Fiscal Court. And we'll start off with an invocation by Magistrate Gay.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and this opportunity to gather in this courthouse. And Father, we just ask your blessing on this body as we do the business of the citizens of this county. Father, we ask that you continue to watch over, protect, and guide us in making the decisions that will give you all the honor and glory. It's in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, if you'll join me, stand and put your hand over your heart and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All righty now.
Better
Let's
late
see.
than never.
Apologies.
We have, first on the agenda is the approval of the prior meeting minutes.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Magistrate Gay and seconded by Magistrate Short to approve the minutes as presented. Discussion.
Judge, at
Sir.
the bottom of page 3, 6 lines up, if we as a court, as a significant, I think that was meant to read, are a significant funding source. Rather
What
than
difference
repeating
it
the word
make?
as. I think that is all I found.
What difference it make?
All right.
Oh,
We'll change the word to "are" to reflect the change noted there.
I heard that, friend.
Being no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Next, we need to approve some bills. Is Mariah coming in to talk about our bills? Okay.
Should we come in that?
Alrighty.
It's gonna train your employees better.
You're cranked up today.
Talking to Keegan, he's
There she goes.
Someone turn Phil's mic off before he gets into trouble with
Morning,
it.
Miss Mariah. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you? There's a delay on the live stream, and I've got a longer walk, so it takes me a minute to get here. All right. Okay, so bills to be approved to be paid total $579,032.71. Standing orders total $376,720.08.
I move we pay the bills as presented.
Alrighty. Is there a motion made by
Second.
Mr. Gay to approve the bills as presented and seconded by Magistrate Short?
he got that.
Any
Second.
questions, comments, or discussions?
I didn't want to step on his toes.
Yeah.
There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries.
All
Thank you.
right, no problem.
And next we have budget transfers. Keegan, what do we have there?
I got it highlighted in pink at the top, everybody. We had some stuff from, with the Open election, some stuff with polling and legal notices, and the usual COVID-19 transfers, and then we had some refunds with EMS. So just a few different ones for the week. Well, there's for the 3 different funds. The first fund, the total is $277.30 from the general fund, $17.04 from the joint jail fund, and then $24.50.14 for EMS.
Move we approve the budget transfers as presented.
All right, motion made. by Magistrate Gay and seconded by Magistrate Short to approve the budget transfers. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign. Motion carries. All right, cash transfers.
We got the two usual transfers, and the first one is for joint jail operations of $100,000, and the second one is for EMS operations of $80,000.
We approve the cash transfers as presented.
Motion made by Magistrate Gay to approve the
Second.
cash transfer, seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Discussion on the cash transfers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign. Motion carried. All right, next. We begin our consent calendar, and we'll hear first about our economic development partnership that we have from Mr. Marty Gibson, who is the president. Marty?
Chair.
Are you with
Chair.
us?
Hello.
Excuse the chair.
Hello.
Hello, hello. I know I've seen a lot, welcome Marty, and I know that we have seen a lot of emails regarding the CVB 644 number of new jobs. And I'd just like to state, or if you don't mind restating what that was
Okay.
for everybody's information.
Sure.
out there.
So the 644 jobs pertaining to tourism was from a report conducted by Longwood Industries, and it's my understanding that they did the report for the entire state. They measured the economic impact of tourism on the state of Kentucky. And in their findings related to Boyle County, they found that out of all the jobs in Boyle County, 644 of those jobs in 2019 could be attributed to the tourism industry.
Could be.
Well, all.
Okay.
I mean, based on their...
Existing.
Correct.
That's the difference in what.
Yeah, it looked
is-
like
It wasn't-
the news article read like added new jobs.
It actually did state that way, which has been a real issue for some of us getting phone calls because
From constituents.
of increases in taxes that we were put in a position to make, and yet we've got $16 million floating around there, brand new money. It was not that way, and as recently as yesterday, correct? Magistrate
Yes, radio
Sammons,
station
it's
has the
being on
same thing.
radio stations incorrectly.
Yeah, they probably...
And
we
it's a
sent a
real-
correction to the paper, and they ran it, but...
We've got radio stations, they're part of media, and that should have been done, especially with the uproar that we've had on this. I'm concerned still with the 644. If that means the guy rolling barrels on the 8th floor of one of the distillery
Weather
places,
Trail.
they are not part of tourism. And I want tourism to give us a breakdown of how that is considered 644 jobs.
Well,
Because
okay, we can ask for that, but
I
just
want
know just know that they didn't do the report. That's a statewide...
they should have intercepted it before they went out and gotten into it and found out exactly what those components were.
Well, I think what Tom's saying is, and I'm not trying to put words in you, I
We
think
can do our
bef-
own analysis.
I think before the tourism board touts those numbers, they maybe should fact check those numbers. And I think
Absolutely.
I think that's the bigger issue, is that if you're going to put a piece out there or be interviewed and saying that we created these jobs, you want to fact check that before. I think that was what we're looking for. But I think it also goes to the fact that, if we did have 644 jobs or 500, it's because there's been, if you look at 2019, we have had an influx of restaurants in this community, which is good and is bad. Those are the only economic wins we're having right now, and those are low, I don't want to say low-paying jobs, but they're not the jobs we're looking for, because a lot of those jobs are restaurants with servers that make $2.50 an hour. And so that's more of a concern with me, is that, while it's good that we are getting some business here or whatever, we just need the right business. Usually when you have bigger industries that come in, those other jobs fill in, but that can't be our bread and butter right now.
And a job that's been here at Cracker Barrel, most of the years I've lived here 19 years, is a persistent job. And when my wife and I or citizens of Boyle County or surrounding counties eat at Cracker Barrel, I don't think they're considering that they're being waited on by people who are helping tourism in this community. So there was a lot of discernment that was left out, and premature release
I'm actually
of
going to
information.
disagree with you a little bit on that one, because my employees do a lot for tourism.
I know.
When
absolutely.
a new person comes in, whether they're a center family or whether they're somebody that's passing through, if they get a good experience at my restaurant or Cracker Barrel or somewhere else because a server has gone out of their way, that's a person that's going to want to come back to this community. So I say,
Contributed to, yes, but not tourism.
Yeah, I think every job in this community is related to tourism.
if
I do too.
If you go back
And every
to
job in this community should be working for tourism.
But repeating my word of discernment, $16 million, quote, new revenue, 644 jobs in half-inch high letters at the top of the fold has caused a bit
So,
of
what difference does it
consternation.
make? I mean, if
It makes a lot of difference when you
difference
sit
does it
with
make?
8 or 9 people who have a hot bulb over the top of your head when we're getting ready to raise the occupational tax.
I thought we invited Marty to talk.
Yeah.
Well-
Look, we need to hear from Marty.
we'll see what Marty has to say when we let him speak. But
I'll get with Jennifer and we'll try to dig down and get you some more data there. But let me just make one more comment on that. That my understanding of that data is that it is a consistent compilation of that specific data type across the state. So we certainly are will oblige to anything that we want to look at that's more granular. But my understanding is that that's a pretty consistent look from Longwell Industries across the entire state, and it's in the form in which they have put it together. It is consistent from county to county on the approach. So that's about as far as I can go with my knowledge of that.
It did, but it did cause some consternation with Magistrates getting fielding.
Oh, I
calls,
bet.
you know.
Yeah, and so next time.
Where has this been all of the last 2 years? You know,
Right, and so my suggestion on that, anything that comes out that just sounds very contrary to what you believe, feel free to pick up the phone and just call me and say, hey, what in the world's going on here? Because that was just it was just interpreted or read incorrectly when the paper reported on it, and there was very little communication from my understanding with the EDP partners when that story was put together. I think they just kind of took the report and
Well, our
created the story.
constituents, the main thing is the fact that we had raised the payroll tax and then seen this amount of money coming in, this tax
Yeah.
money.
Sure,
They asking us, why did we do it?
right. I get it. I get it.
So a magistrate's not an easy job, Marty.
neither is the board chair of the EDP at this moment.
Sometimes you want to change your phone number.
I have a lot of tough jobs. I'm not worried. I don't rank them.
So talk to us about the easier side of the EDP. What are you here to talk about?
Well, so the judge asked me to give an update on the status of the EDP and specifically the outlook toward future operations. So we'll talk about that, and I'll give you all plenty of time to ask me questions, and we can get into that. But before we get there, I'd like to go through a little bit of where we've been and give you some statistics. So we've already talked in the first 5 minutes about, all we talked about really is jobs and job creation, and we talked about the importance of higher paying jobs versus lower paying jobs, or we at least alluded to that. So through the third quarter, there have been 72 inquiries and 7 announcements in Boyle County. Comparing that to the third quarter of 2019, there had been year-to-date 2019 third quarter 85 inquiries and 15 announcements. Comparing that to state data, so you can see some trends, the state through the third quarter has had 80 new and expanding announcements. So for the entire state of Kentucky, we've had 80 announcements for new and expanding projects through the third quarter. Continuing with the state numbers, if you look at year-end 2019, there were 285 announcements. And comparing that back to 2018 year-end, there were 373. So you see a downward trend, and then you certainly see the impact COVID has had in 2020, where there's just a distinct drop-off both at the state level and with us. The state level actually looks like it's running a little bit under 50%, and we're running just right at 50% year to date. So we still have a quarter to go. A reminder, in 2019, mostly related to a couple of one or two large expansions, but we did, the way the state ranks, they rank investments for new and expansion and retention announcements. And just as a reminder, I don't think we talk about this much, we actually ranked third in the state in 2019 for the most investment for new and expanding or retention type projects. So that's a success that probably should have been talked about more. The pandemic has certainly elevated our unemployment percentage to around 9% at the end of September. But I keep going back to this in the last couple of meetings and in several EDP meetings and in several side conversations that I've had. We have 300 industrial jobs that are available. We have had at least 2 job fairs that the EDP Workforce Development Committee has sponsored. In the middle of COVID, they kind of figured out how to do that safely, and they have done that, and they're contemplating how and when they do another one this year. We have employers, we have industrial employers who are offering sign-on bonuses. We have industrial employers who are offering walk-up interviews. They are even running ads, speaking of the radio, they're even running ads on local radio trying to attract applicants. So we have 300 jobs that need to be filled right now in the industrial side. We also have over 100 jobs that are a mixture of high-paying and low-paying. We have several, I know just in 2 brief conversations last week of about 20 to 50 high-paying jobs that are professional type jobs in our community that need to be filled, that our businesses are having trouble filling. So we have a plethora of jobs available right now that range widely in pay scale and the level of technical skills that are associated with those jobs. So that's a good thing. While we don't have an announcement for a new 200+ employer coming to town, we have about 500 jobs available right now that we need to fill.
Well, we're sitting at 9.2 for unemployment, and the state is sitting at 7.5. Surrounding counties, the only one that's close is Lincoln, it's at 9.4, but everyone else is in 8 and under. What's the issue?
Part of the issue is that we do have a large contingency of residents that work out of the county. That's something that should always be factored in, and it's hard to understand the impact of that number. But I think also, compared to these other counties, we have a higher number of employees who work in the restaurant and in the hotel business. And I think that compared to these other counties, compared to a lot of these other counties, and I think that that's part of that impact. And with the continuation through September of the higher unemployment wages, you know, I'm not sure how motivated they have been to go out and find another job. I don't know the answer to that, but that's one of the things that's certainly been talked about a lot in the press, and not understanding the impact.
I'm not laying into that because I'm getting applicants every day. People are not waiting. Because a lot of the problems with the state of Kentucky is you're not getting that money. Mm-hmm. So they're not getting that extra money. I have several employees that were laid off back in March and April that still haven't received money from the state. So it's not like the money's there. So I don't know. I don't know if I fall into that train of thought. So
what do you see the gap being there? What's the disconnect?
Well, I don't know, because looking at, I see people in our community looking for jobs and surrounding communities looking for jobs, and you're telling me there's 500 jobs available.
But I'll tell you, let me throw this stat out there. Judge, I believe it was in July, the July packet, that July or August, I think it was July unemployment number came in one tick under a year ago. And so we've had some significant claims. We jumped up, we fell way back down, and then we jumped way back up. So Jason, I don't know, but there's something.
And I'm not grilling you. I'm not saying this is all your fault. I'm just trying to figure out, I know people will, yeah, back when, there was that promise of $600 a week or whatever, but I don't know, people kind of fell out of that pretty quickly when when the state wasn't coming through with the money and I don't know.
So what do we, I guess, I would ask the question, and how do we get people in these jobs that we have available?
So continuing to support these folks who are out there trying to hire these people any way we can, and one of the most immediate ways is through the job fairs. Beyond that, it's something that I'll get to in a moment, but we've been focused over the last month on marketing efforts to try to, which gets into a short-term need and a longer-term need, but it really centers on population growth and trying to attract, the short term is trying to attract applicants who could fill those jobs. And that's, you're going to begin to look beyond Boyle County for that. And then long term, as we would want and hope to make those people become residents of Boyle County, then you begin to look at the broader picture where you're talking about housing and other things. Do we have it? What kind do we have? What are they going to need? Those are the things that we're having conversations with local developers and builders, and so that becomes a very coordinated conversation across several different areas, people with different areas of expertise and willingness to invest and develop.
Yeah, I guess the marketing thing is kind of, I don't know if any of us in this room know that there was 500 jobs available, and
that's good to know, good to hear.
And I mean, I don't know.
But they've been that way for a while.
Right.
For a while.
Particularly
and they've
the
not been filled,
industrial.
okay?
So all
And my
your
question-
factories, they've got openings right now.
Well, I'm not going to say they all do, but there
There are several that do.
Yeah, there are at least 3 that need significant numbers.
If our surrounding counties are still at 7% and 8%, what have we done to get in newspapers outside in the contiguous counties and the radio stations there? Because they're not that far from driving here, and they can get some very high-paying jobs.
Right, and that's the marketing plan that's being built.
That, and that was kind of my question, because most people that they're looking for don't read newspapers. So
right, it becomes a digital marketing.
it's a digital marketing campaign.
And they sure listen to radio stations.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no, I haven't listened to a radio station, Tom, and I can't tell you how long. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Julie, but I mean, everything I need is Spotify, Pandora. Like those are the radio stations that your 20s and early 30s are listening to. They don't look at that kind of stuff anymore. And that was, I think that's where Jamie and I kind of get to, is how are we attracting them and how are we getting through to people? Because it sounds like maybe we're not, but I'll also say that I know, if you're talking about some of the places out towards the industrial park, I mean, the turnover rate is just huge too. It's like they're getting people in, but they're getting people out.
And why? We need to know why.
And part of that is the need for population growth, because we're just stealing employees from one another.
And this is my
Based on wages.
Yeah.
We got a generation that don't want to work.
well, I don't know if it's just that, but I mean, also we've got a generation. Well, we have a population that actually sits
Don't know how to work.
right across the street from the Industrial Foundation, and maybe this is something that the EDP picks into. We've talked about it before, but Jailer Wolford and his group of people there could definitely use some opportunity to get a hand up. So I'm maybe that's something there. If the jobs are needed that bad, maybe we work something with the jailer to see.
I think they're working on it.
I know they've talked about it in the past, but I'm not seeing it.
There are some committee members that kind of cross over into those two paths with the Workforce Development Committee. So it's a good point.
You go to some of these factories that's hiring, they got great big signs up there.
Oh, I know.
Right.
Yeah, we're hiring.
And honestly,
Come right now.
I'm in the same boat.
And they still can't get nobody.
How do you get through to people? And Tom, I wasn't trying to get on to you about that, but it's just, I advertise through Facebook, Instagram, and I don't know any other source besides, most people don't even go to a website anymore. They just go to those social medias, and it's really hard, and radio doesn't do it as much. I mean, radio is still, there still is a presence out there, but it's hard.
Well, on the radio, Marion County Springfield's have been talking about coming up here.
Well, they came last week.
Last week to recruit.
Yep.
And we need to go out there, but if they're coming here to recruit, what's that about?
Marion County's, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Marty, I'm gonna go back to something you said just a little bit earlier, that you all have started looking at the marketing. Marty, we should have been marketing for years.
Well, now, wait a minute.
Okay.
We've had a marketing
Okay.
committee that's been in, what we've done is we've transitioned from focusing on targeted industries to saying, hey, look, we have this immediate need today that can have an immediate impact. And so we have pivoted our marketing strategies and our marketing work to focus on these 300 jobs on the industrial side and these 100 to 200 jobs that include some professional stuff. And in doing so, we are being very specific in how we're building a digital marketing campaign to focus on that.
My general point is, we market every day. We don't do it just, we market, somebody has to tell our story.
Oh, sure.
Every single day, every day of the year. When we quit doing that, we'll end up with what we've got now. And I think people around the table are trying to say, what are we doing now? We have to keep the philosophy marketing is every day.
Right, exactly. And I do believe it is. What we're doing today is that we are pivoting our marketing strategies and dollars to focus on attracting the people to fill these
A
jobs.
few years ago, your marketing budget was very low, and I don't remember the figure, but it was very, very low. And that was probably not a good direction back then.
It was.
And there was a discussion on that, as I remember.
And I think marketing at that point was very limited and directed in its approach. It was primarily just having our executive go to site selector guilds and those type of things across the country. And so we're trying to get away from that a little bit.
Have we done any job fairs outside the county?
We have not this year, no. And, you know, we have to question the value. So Marion County came to Boyle County and had a job fair, and they asked us if we wanted to participate, but based on some feedback from Brent Blevins on how it was being handled, the decision by the committee was to not participate and continue to do our own thing. Because of the COVID precautions that weren't maybe being taken, which is certainly just that was just the
They came
decision.
here anyway, though.
They came anyway.
Did they?
But, you know, it's not a huge undertaking to go do one of these, but it does involve some time and some planning. My question is, how fruitful was it for Marion County to come to Boyle County to have a job fair when we have 300 of the same type of jobs they're trying to attract? We already have 300 of those open. So, and knowing that the pay would be very similar between the two counties for the types of jobs we're talking about. And maybe they weren't aware of how many openings we had. I don't know. But
they took the initiative and came across county lines to come here to try to find people. And I think Magistrate Gay was saying, we've got to be doing in an anticipatory way. Back in March when we knew what we were going to be facing, we could have had this in place already.
Maybe we need to get some feedback on people that is applying for these jobs. Feedback kind of from them why they're not getting these jobs. You know.
While they're
Well, the employers, why they're turning them away.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause I think
we
there's
need
people
some
that
kind of
aren't applying.
feedback. Give us an idea of
Do we know
what we're looking for.
if some of them are criminal offense related, second chance employment kind of things or not?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean,
Because I know we have some industries that are in tune with that.
right.
But
more
I don't
accepting
know
of
if
that.
they all are. And
They're not all.
the second chance employment opportunities, if an employee qualifies other than a record and submits to drug screens on a regular basis, would they not be considered as for employment? I think therein lies a great block of people that are prohibited from employment.
This is part of my
I think you're
education
right.
last
I
year.
think it's drug related where that we can hire these, drug
It doesn't.
related people, you know, Marty, would that be true? Or
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
they can't fill a lot of these jobs because the block of people that we need that's qualified can't pass the drug test. Would that be true?
Historically, that has definitely been true, but I do feel like that there is some, I don't feel like the standards are as high as they once were in relation to that.
Right.
I'm not saying that they aren't still in place, but I don't think that's as much of a barrier as it
was in the past.
historically. It's
Well,
still
We
is a
brought up
barrier.
we brought up these same questions, I think, last year.
That's
and
where I wanted to go.
Our retired treasurer Conley had said that most of these companies that we have here in town do give second chances, and so there shouldn't, according to the information that was given to us last year, there shouldn't be a problem with these second chances or
I
stuff.
don't
So-
think that's-
Reflecting back, and the judge brought it up, reflecting back to that conversation, I learned, 40 years ago, there was not a prayer. If you had to put that on your application, or if you were found out to have lied, that you had a drug problem, you were gone that day. No questions asked, no litigation, you were gone. And it was a real epiphany, Judge, last year when we had these conversations that Magistrate Cullen brought up. Those who come out of drug rehab and into the workforce are going to be tested much more often on a scheduled basis as opposed to every nth month for that one employee who just happens to be the one called into it, who might still be getting away with drug problems. And so the risk to the employer today is significantly lower than it was back 40 years ago when you were out. You didn't even walk through the door and look for a job. So I think we need to help educate the employers. And that's not a big trick where it's going to be setting up a job fair or anything like that. But it was an eye-opener to me, the way we used to handle it versus the way it's handled now with routine testing when somebody comes out and they know it when they're hired.
Sorry. So let's switch gears a little bit. I don't want to take up all your day. I know you wear lots of hats, and we appreciate your time. What's going on with EDP? Where is the board at with helping issues we've had in the past not happen again? You and I have had conversations at length about this, but it's been about a month or two. What are we doing right now? Where are you guys at? What are you guys doing to shore up things? And what is your comments relating to what the city and the county have talked about so far?
Well, so, okay, that gets me into.
I got you.
That's a whole lot.
And we can take the,
Well,
we
so
can
let
get
me
the
get
cliff
into
notes version of this.
the current and future operations of the EDP, and then I think we can get into. I'll touch on some of that, I think, and then the more specific questions or areas that you want me to cover, dive in. So current and future operations, the EDP, as you all know, is designed to influence certain aspects of economic development by being deeply engaged in certain areas and more of a facilitator or in a support role in other areas of economic development. That's one of the great things about the EDP is that it's designed to create a collaborative front that is able to both directly engage in certain areas and then just be an influencer in other areas. I think what Center College is doing on the third floor of the hub is a prime example of the influencer
Sorry, where?
side. The third floor of the hub.
Oh, okay, I just want to hear that
Center's
again.
doing.
Oh, you just want to hear it repeated, right?
Can you make sure you get that in the notes right now, Ann?
Yes,
Is there a
sir.
coffee shop down there? And so
Premier, from what I understand.
that's we had conversations coming out of the strategic plan in 2017 on the need for promoting entrepreneurship, and so multiple conversations over time, and we found a way to keep that conversation alive to the point where Center College then said, hey, wait a minute, this they had some guys. Patrick Nolsmeyer actually began that conversation with Dr. Roush and some others, and then upon his leaving, Brian Huxley picked it up and just absolutely took off with it, and so that's going to come to fruition, and so that's a great example We didn't drive that, and we're not taking credit for it. But we were in the background as an influencer, keeping that conversation going until it got to a point where somebody grabbed it. And so I think that's a prime example of how that collaborative approach and the public-private partnership can be advantageous in areas beyond something where you're directly focused and trying to drive. It also creates a unique opportunity to pool talent from multiple resources. I continue to believe that one of its greatest attributes is that because of the funding structure of the public-private combination, it alleviates the full burden of economic development cost from the taxpayer. Are there areas for improvement? Absolutely. There always are. There always have been, and there always will be. I think we need to look at the employee structure that was contemplated by the strategic plan. I think one of the biggest challenges that we don't have is that we don't have a salesman, and one of the in the EDP on staff, and that was something that the strategic plan from 2017 said was a definite need. So that's something that we've got to figure that out. And so does that mean reshuffling what you have, or does that mean trying to come up with funding to hire that? The plan calls for 3.5 positions, and we currently have 2. And again, I think the biggest shortcoming, and this gets into the most recent example we've had with Pittman Creek Wholesale, is relationship building, and that has been a shortcoming. The board is keenly aware of how important relationships are. Great communication is at the core of every successful organization, team, or industry. And so we're continuing to rethink how we might best improve. I do want to take a moment and clarify some comments made last month on the work of the Future Land Acquisition and Development Task Force. The purpose of that task force was to investigate specifically how other communities acquire and develop industrial land. That task force did not address organizational structure of economic development organizations in a broader sense. And using the report for that basis that's not what it was meant to do. So we have to just make sure we understand the point and purpose of that report. But what is appropriate is to continue having conversations that lead to improved outcomes. At this point, as they should always be, all options are on the table, just as they were 3 years ago when we entered into the strategic plan process. 4 or 5 things I've just thrown out. I'm sure there are many more, and I'm sure you guys have different ideas that should be brought up and thrown into the pool of ideas. But one of the things that's been challenging for me as chair is knowing that, having some experience with the old version of EDP, one of the common comments and pain points, seem to be the metrics or the scorecard. What is it? What are the metrics? What is the scorecard? And so one of my great hopes entering into the strategic plan is that we would come away with those clearly identified. And so we have this big plan that is in this book, and it gives it's got a lot of great information in there, a lot of objectives that are great, but it really doesn't clearly articulate the scorecard, or it identifies strategic goals, but what are we really going to measure back to? And I know you guys, I've been around you all long enough, I know you all like metrics. It doesn't really clearly articulate what metrics that we're trying to achieve. But on the flip side, it's very difficult in the world of economic development to have those on an annual basis, because economic growth can be a slow drip type process. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't have those. So what should they be? How does that look? How do we measure ourselves short-term, long-term? And we do that now, but I get the sense, because we're still questioned on it a lot, that we ought to reopen that conversation and see if there are other ways to do that. That would be
my
more
2
suitable.
cents is I would throw that plan out. I think that plan is outdated. I think it's flawed. If I were to look at our neighbors to the south, Pulaski County's got 65,000 residents.
Mhm.
Population's double of ours. Their Economic Development Authority has 2 employees, and they're seeing success.
Mhm.
They've got 9 people on the board. How many do we have?
10.
Yeah. And so, you know, that thing that you've got too many chiefs, not enough Indians kind of phrase kind of comes in here. I think that we really need to have more of a realistic view, because 2017, which means that thing was probably written in 15, 16, there's a lot.
17, yeah.
Yeah, a lot's changed since then. So I don't even, I mean, I understand that we'd like to have that many employees, but unfortunately, the resources aren't there.
Well, I think one of the things that we should, again, not to confuse, for example, this task force work. I don't know their exact structure down there in Pulaski County, but I'm curious as to whether or not that organization functions as their version of a public industrial foundation.
Really, it does. The judge and I were down there for a seminar last year. And
Say it does.
To a great degree, yeah.
Yeah. So see, that's a different. That's not. That would, you know, one opportunity I think that the task force plan did contemplate was a public entity that could potentially go out. And Jamie, if I step out of bounds, you push me back in, or blow the whistle, whatever we need to do. One of the things that plan did recognize in each place, because they went to organizations like the one you've referenced in Somerset and said, how do you do it? But they are not a version of the EDP. They're a public version of the Industrial Foundation. So it's a different mission. It's not as holistic. It's not that. It's a different deal. In that example, one option would be if the city and the county partnered and formed an entity to go out and together buy land for future use. Each of you has 3 seats on the EDP board. That entity then becomes your partner entity, and you still got 6 seats combined on the board. There's one way to look at doing that, which addresses the needs identified by the task force.
Marty, I've got to get into some of the nuts and bolts of what we've already been talking about here today. Last year, it took phone calls and 3 emails to finally get that very simple graphic of 10 years of how much been spent and how much growth have we had in employees. We had spent millions of dollars, and we had declined by, I think it was 79 employees over that 10-year period of time. That is not a good scorecard. Secondly, at least a year and a half ago, I was talking to the head of EDP about the simplicity of getting email addresses for every center college graduate who's been out for 10 years. And just marketing, selling, salesmanship to them with the punch of a button to all of them. And I know that has not yet taken place. You mentioned relationships. We had a near miss on a distillery situation a year plus ago. We've had a devastating loss of pitmen, and that enters into relationships and simple salesmanship. It's a lost opportunity. You mentioned land, and we had a long conversation last week when you called me. I travel the state frequently. I have all through my career, but more frequently I've traveled it, and there is 3-foot-high orchard grass and fescue that's being mowed, and the hay given away on that land by, I'd say, between 20 and 40 industrial foundation type organizations. And I think we need to study how many industrial parks are out there, how long have they had land available, break out whether the land is prepared with infrastructure or not, and what has been the cost to that community for that, and how much of it can we optimistically think will ever be used. And as I told you in the conversation that we had on the phone last week, I cannot see us committing one taxpayer dollar to the acquisition and improvement of any more land until we get a study like that to see if we're climbing Mount Everest with no equipment and no oxygen. Because I don't think there's any oxygen in those communities that are simply cutting hay.
I think, to
Wrap up.
add to that, I really think we need to find employment for these nearly 300 to 500 people
First step.
before we get down the road too far on
I agree wholeheartedly.
on bringing them, because they're not gonna come if they can't hire people to come.
That's right.
And they're not gonna come if they don't have a place to live.
Right.
So
They
my,
can't find
my,
housing.
going back to my original question, is the EDP board looking to make any changes? Are you guys okay with status quo?
Oh, no, we're not okay with status quo. We are looking on how to best fulfill the needs that continue to arise. Address the issues.
Two of your biggest contributors, and could be bigger, I would say, have serious concerns with our economic development. That, to me, would say that you guys need to take this and take us seriously with this, because there could be more if we saw better results, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You know, the private side funds 220,000, the public side funds 140, and so collectively, you know, we've been able to do the things that we've done, and we have upside. We know that. We've got to figure out what is the best structure given continued issues that we've had to deal with. How do we address those? What changes need to be made? And how do we fill these jobs that are open today? Those are the topics, those are the conversations that we're having. Judge, I hope you would concur with that. COVID has been, EDP certainly hasn't been left alone by COVID. We've been impacted. We've had to do the video meetings, and it's
But we've had these problems
it's
before
hard to
COVID.
engage.
We can't go on COVID.
Yeah, but I think we had a lot of momentum heading into this year, especially with the work of the task force. We had that second group ready to take off running.
So what happened with Pittman Creek then? You can't give me that, because we lost Pittman Creek.
Well, that's
we
a
lost
relationship.
jobs,
That's
Marty.
not momentum.
That's a relationship thing, and I agree with that one-off situation.
But
You're
it's not
exactly
one-off. That's
right.
one-off we know about.
Yeah.
And so,
That's true.
so I respect you greatly. I said, but this cannot be a COVID thing. We've had these issues for, I've been in this chair for 2 years now. We've had these issues before me being here. Magistrate Gay has brought this up since I've been sitting in the audience for several years. We have an economic development issue that needs to be handled, needs to be taken seriously by the board. And yeah, we only give $140,000 on the public sector, but that's reluctantly. I would very easily and happily give more money if those investments were going to actually work out, but I don't see them working out, and I don't see any changes. I don't hear of any changes with the issues that we have. So we've got to be able to take a realistic view of this, and I'm not saying you have to fire people or whatever, but we have to have a better structure. Things have to be done better than what they've been done. We can't keep losing things.
Let me just say this. We've been here for 45 minutes, and we can be here for 4 hours. Or we can wrap
But
this
let
up
me be
in
clear,
2
I don't want to give the impression that I'm blaming what happened with Pittman Creek on COVID. That is not at all what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are these other efforts that we've been working on. That is you're exactly right, and I agree with you 100%. That had nothing to do with that. What I'm talking about is our ability to continue to work on the marketing plan and on these other areas in which we were working on.
John, I'm gonna have to.
Judge, I know
truncate
you
this
want
a
to
little
wind
bit.
it up, but I've got a long list.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim.
First, I want to thank David Maynard for his service. He resigned.
I agree.
And I want to thank him for his attention. I want to thank Marty. Marty's a volunteer. Marty and I talked a couple of weeks ago, and I appreciate and respect what Marty is trying to do. I've heard today, and I really appreciate all of you all around the table, because I shared with Marty that, and I think I shared it with you, Judge, I think you all should have input to help him going down the path, so that I think it will help you to know how these folks feel, Marty. So that's why I want to start with this. How many employees do we have that's hired by EDP, and what do they do?
We have we have two. We have Josh, who's the economic development specialist, who primarily works on data, gathering information. he assists Jody with a lot of the paperwork. You know, one of the things that came out of the strategic plan was and like it or love it or hate it, there's a lot of work in here. I mean, this is the list of the ongoing. This is the implementation matrix right here for all the things that were identified in the strategic plan, and there's a lot of work there.
Well, let me ask you this, in light of when everything started going to heck in March, shutting down, what adjustments were made to try to hold down expenses at EDP with the employee situation?
Right. Well, so what we did was we considered the marketing budget and the trips that we had planned, because some of those were going to continue to occur. We looked at the advertisements that we were placing, given the timing of the pandemic and the timing of the year, and trying to determine what real value we had gained historically out of those, if any. Can you measure any kind of outcome out of those? So we held on to those dollars. There were no salary adjustments specifically, if that's where if that's what you're asking.
Was there a work adjustment on what was required? In other words, travel was discontinued, and I understand that. So that expense went away.
Right.
So we had two people who were working on doing numbers, because I doubt if we got many inquiries.
Well, no,
I don't know that. But.
Well, there was a ton of assistance particularly with our commercial staff, with our commercial clients and industrial clients, on helping them get through the state recommendations for safe at work, and that side of it, because that's a lot of what we do too. We provided a lot of support. There were some industries that were at risk of being shut down a time or two over safe at work requirements, and so those are things that, as we went through the pandemic, that were worked on in April and May. But really, I would only consider that to be a 60-day interruption, and then as we got back into things opening back up, one of the things that Jody had made comment in our meetings was that a lot of the calls and activity from not meeting in person, but a lot of the activity for planning future projects was continuing at a somewhat normal pace. Announcements were being held off and have slowed down, and we saw that in the numbers. But the work in preparing for those didn't, according to Jody.
I think going forward, and I agree with I think Jason, maybe some others on this survey that we did several years ago. Doesn't have any meaning, because I think everything is going to change with what we've been through in the last 10 months.
Strategic plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The plan is so totally different today because times are different, and everybody, I think a lot of folks are going to adjust. I want to move on to try to speed it up. Evaluations. How does EDP handle evaluations of the two staff members they have?
Josh reports to Jody, and Jody handles Josh's evaluation, and it is reported through the board. The result of that, Jody's evaluation is to be done annually, and it is conducted by the executive committee and reviewed by the board.
Does the board do the evaluation, or does Jody do his own evaluation?
No, the
It's not self-evaluation.
It's self-evaluation.
It's a self-evaluation.
But no, there's an evaluation done by the executive committee.
Have those comments been followed through that may have been made on the evaluations? And I'm not asking for any details. Don't please miss.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to answer that without giving details.
I know, and if you can't, that's fine. Okay,
I prefer not to.
Okay,
Because of employee matters.
I understand it.
You can say they've been addressed.
Now, here's
They have been addressed, and the judge has been part of the most recent efforts.
Here's one of the rubs I have, and you can't talk about BCIF because you don't represent BCIF. I respect that and understand that, but BCIF, in my opinion, has made some decisions that have affected our revenue streams. But my point is, this man here is not on BCIF, and it doesn't make any sense to me that he's not represented on a committee or a group that affects our revenue streams. I think he should have a voice at the table.
Well, the city and the county used to be.
They
members
used to
of
be,
BCI.
but Judge, they're not
They're
anymore.
not just EDP now.
And I think that's a mistake, I think that's an error, and I think it needs to be corrected. And I think that there's been some things that have, happened that with their voice there, it may have been, the outcome may have been a little bit different. We've talked about how many jobs are open. I got this, which is the Future Land Acquisition and Development Task Force report this morning. I read it.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to review that.
Now,
Look
here's
through
my
that.
point. It's dated December 12th of 19. And this is a game changer, in my opinion, with the recommendations. But there's a statement on here that I want to bring out that I think is real important.
Where are
As
you?
many of you all have not read this, let's go to 4, in 4A.
And do we
Boyle
have-
County urges and needs more land for industrial development. It's limited. The amount of land that we have is limited. Then I'm gonna move to H.
We don't have a copy.
And talk about the community must speak with one voice when marketing itself for business development. Then I'm gonna go down to I. There must be a clear, cohesive organization structure. That's why, one reason I said to you the other day, let's talk about structure. I think this really jumped out at me. And the word is used in there that the local economic development professional with the full support and trust of the economic development organization and its members. If I was asked, if we went around the table, the most important word in there is trust. I am of the opinion that trust is not there as I think it should be, and I think you might agree with that there is a lack of trust. And that's why we're having this discussion, in my mind, is that we need to build trust. If the present structure doesn't build trust, how are we gonna keep doing the same thing? And we're gonna need to look at our structure and see what do we need. And structure includes not only structure of how it's put together, but it's the personnel side of it too. And I understand that. It's everything. But we gotta build trust before we start adding more money.
Yeah.
If we don't have trust, I can't explain to the people of 6th District why I'm investing in it, because it's an investment. It's not to pay the expenses as much as I see it as an investment in the future to help our revenue stream so that we can create services for our people who put us around the table.
There you go. I'm getting
It
the
all
same
backs up to
feedback
that.
from the-
But this man doesn't have a seat at the table of the organization that is part of economic development, nor does the mayor have a seat at the table. I'm not,
To be clear,
we
it's
won't,
BCIF.
sir,
To be clear,
BCIF,
it's BCIF.
BCIF. We don't have a seat at the table, and it's not in name, it's in position of the court, position of the city. Leave the names out.
So, one of the changes as a result of the restructure in 2018 changed the responsibilities. You know, I hear and I respect what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it about the judge and the mayor and BCIF. But BCIF's role at this point in economic development is that of an asset owner. That's it. The EDP markets their property. on their
25
behalf.
years ago.
Yeah.
Let me go back. 25 years ago, a man by the name of Waterhouse said that in his report. I was on the board a long time ago. And it was said then that, yes, we would do that, but we would also pretty much be over commercial recruitment, commercial jobs and everything like that. I don't think that just being a landowner was the way the foundation saw themselves at that point in time. I think they saw their role bigger. I think they should be what you just said. They should be in charge of the land that they own and work with those folks that are out there. That's not really what they're doing. They're doing, I see them making decisions and having input that is greater than that affect our revenue stream, but we don't have representation and a voice.
To corroborate what Magistrate Gay was saying, I seem to recall that there was a very substantial comment made via a BCIF member in a public meeting of the City Council recently, when Councilwoman Terry made her comments. And that was influence. That was strong influence. And it was not well received, what she had to say in that meeting, as I recall reading in the newspaper. I wasn't there, but that influence is there. I don't think it can be denied.
Judge, if I could, because I do think that we're going to need to wrap, and I really think
we are too.
I think that we need a whole workshop, as I've been saying.
I think it's a summit, as I mentioned in the last meeting.
And one of the things that is recommended by the group, the task force that did the land acquisition and development, was to educate, and that's where some of that is, some of what Marty's pointing to, that is some of the stuff that did get sidetracked by COVID.
Yes,
We were planning to have a summit and a meeting, that's in the plan here, that's in the recommendations, is to educate the community on the things that we learned, and also bring in some of the people that we met with to educate the community, because we all felt like that was it was an extremely valuable education process for us as a task force, and we don't want to keep that to ourselves. We want to share that with you all and with the greater community. That part of the process got sidetracked along the way.
Jamie, can I ask you a question? This is December of 19. What have we done since December of 19 that's in this? What progress have we made toward it? I got it. Probably sent out yesterday late. I read it this morning.
Can I answer that?
I'm almost a year later.
Please.
What progress have we made? Because let me tell you, Jamie, this is an everyday issue.
It is.
Every day that we don't make progress in the area of economic development is a day lost that we can't recover. It has to be. I'm sorry about my emotion. I'm a little irritated that I just got this in the last 24 hours.
You had that a year ago.
That was
You had that a year
presentation.
ago.
That's Alan's presentation that
You had that a year ago.
Well, I heard Alan present it.
You had that a year ago.
Then I won't go back and say, what have we done?
We accomplished.
And if we haven't done anything, but everything in here, when I read it this morning, it tells me we can't continue with the same structure.
We have to address this veil of confidentiality. Justice Brandeis, for whom the law school at Louisville is named, said sunlight is the best disinfectant. I got a call from a major entity, an individual in this community, angry about Pittman, and that here we are, deja vu all over again, that only this many people knew about it, when the confidentiality clause that is in your bylaws of the EDP says that is a collective of people. I'm trying to find it on my phone because I saved it from last year because I knew we would be facing this again this year. This person should have been in the loop about Pittman, and that's why he called me, and he was furious that once again, just like last year when we had, but we have this veil of confidentiality, we signed an agreement. That agreement says that some of your board members have the right to know, and they did not know. The judge did not know. The mayor called me, he did not know.
We were under no confidentiality.
That makes it worse
that
then.
I'm aware of with Pittman Creek. We found out about it at the same time. That
We
was
did.
a
We all
decision.
found out about it at the same time.
And I do want to say that, I want to remind
That's a
us once
measurement
again
on an employee.
that we are partners in the partnership. And we are full-fledged partners in the partnership with the city and with all the other entities that are part of the partnership. So I just want to keep
The
reminding us of.
Yeah, that partnership only works though if the partnership is brought up to speed.
Amen. With
That's, I think
taxpayer
that's,
dollars
I
at
think
risk.
that's kind of the point of
Please
this,
get
is
that,
that if
taxpayer dollars.
employees are withholding information to the partnership, or things are not followed up on properly, then there's an issue, and that statement doesn't hold anything, so.
That breeds distrust and a lack of trust.
Okay.
Partnership doesn't work if it's not trust among the partners.
Marty, thank you for your time. I do appreciate what you're trying to do. Again, like John said, you are a volunteer, and, we appreciate, I appreciate,
I
you
think the
taking the
point
extra
has been
time,
made
so.
You're gonna resign today?
We need to discuss the future of economic development in this county and this community a lot more than what we have in the past. There's a lot of issues and concerns that are still, that you see a lot of frustration with, both at the city and at the county. So, Marty, it's not I don't think anybody in this courtroom takes it as a personal attack on you or what you're doing as chairman, okay? But I think we're all in agreement that if we have some frustrations, if we quit trying to make something better in our own way, then we have failed our constituents. And we're wanting to try and make it better, whether everybody has to play in it in some way, shape, or form, or not. But I think that's where we are. When we quit trying to make something better, then we're not doing what we were put here to do. And that's all that they're saying is, and trust is a part of it. There's some other things that are part of it. And you've been very bold and very deeply appreciated to come and address your perspective on things, and I deeply appreciate it. And you've heard our perspective, and I think that was important too.
Certainly.
So,
Judge, if I can say one more real quick thing. I think one thing that what you guys are lacking that you had before, I think the fact that all of these different entities are separated is a mistake. Chamber of Commerce, CVB, all should report somehow under this.
A corporate structure?
Correct, because there's too many boards out there pulling people in too many different directions, and you don't have any sense of unity or synergy. So I think Jody and I have talked about that before, that there has to be accountability there, and not just to a group of volunteers that only meet once a month. So, whatever we do, I think bringing everything in-house, again, is priority. So, thank you.
And the same thing goes for the real estate side of it. Josh has an office or a building, in one building, and Jody's in another building. Is that
Yep.
right? Is that necessary? I mean, can you?
Yeah, and we've talked about some consolidation.
Well, Duane's looking into something too about trying to get that third floor possibly on Jody's
there
building
needs to be some consolidation there.
fixed up so that he could be in there, and then we could take advantage of some of that real estate too.
Yeah. So to the judge's point, and I'll wrap up so thank you all for what you all do. And one of the things that has always made our community great in my mind is that we have so many people that care so passionately about our community's success. And so sometimes that makes it hard, but ultimately we're all looking for the same result, and that result being the best one that we can possibly come up with. So
cool.
To that end, that's why we do these meetings.
COVID changed everything going forward, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that study that was done, sadly, is outdated already.
But John, we're gonna overcome that.
We have to overcome it.
That's right.
Our people expect us to
Brother Short,
overcome
bring
it.
it.
But we won't do it if we don't have discussions like this to talk about it.
We have to have discussions
Yes,
like
sir.
this, okay? This has been good, it's been lengthy, it's been good, it was necessary, and.
It's only 'cause we care, Marty.
We need to have more like this, okay, really and truly. And, that's not to beat up on Marty Gibson.
No, so
We
when
need
are
to
we gonna have
more
our,
discussions.
so when is our summit and who's gonna organize
No,
it?
we talked about how much we had given.
I'll talk with the mayor,
I'll let you take that.
and that needs to be a summit
Keaton
that
staff
they have
put it together
representation
for
at,
me.
and we'll talk
Goes
about
back
it.
several years,
Okay.
and that, you'll understand it.
I'll let everybody know.
Prior to year end?
Hmm?
Prior to year
Yes,
end?
prior to year end. okay?
What's this now? Sorry, I missed.
I'm gonna talk to the mayor, and we'll have a economic development summit, which I have no reason to believe you should be part of that discussion, okay? And it will be 4 years in,
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you,
Before
Marty.
November end.
probably before
Thank you all.
November, first
Thank
of
you.
December, okay, I
Still
got
owe a few of you some phone calls, and I'll be getting around. I've made some, but it's, I have a day job too.
it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Marty.
Thank you all. Thank
And
you.
if you see, Missy Angola out there,
They were all hanging out in the.
okay, thank you.
All right,
All right, thank you.
No, you know it's yours.
Hey.
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 Golly.
Oh, gang.
All right, we're done. See you guys later. All right, well, I'm Missy Angolia. I know a few of you in here, a couple I don't know. Good to meet you. It's my first time being here, so be gentle. But I brought along Tom Ty, who is our current board chair as of last week, and our past chair, Patrick McClure, as the past president. So they've kind of got, they've been around a little longer than me, so if there's some further back questions or some historical questions or anything like that, they can kind of help fill in some blanks as I am having fun in this 2020 year. So, first of all, I do want to thank you guys. I did listen in to the court meeting a couple weeks ago where you guys did vote on our addendum for 2020, so thank you for that, and completely understandable. We will, you know, as 2021 gets to us and sees kind of what the situation is, keep you all updated on, you know, CDC guidelines, state guidelines. You all will be probably looking at those as well. I do always just like to, I know a lot of folks know about brass band. It's been around for technically 31, this would have been our 31st year. Next year will be the 31st festival, hopefully, pending COVID issues. On a normal year, that wouldn't have been this year, you know, brass band does have about 20 to 25,000 people. We usually have hundreds of musicians play. Lots of those musicians are in the local area, but lots are far away. So we have, you know, national. We were going to have a Canadian band this past year, so international folks as well. It does bring in tourists to the area. You know, when we do our fall donor drive, which we're getting ready to do right now, I have to meet with some folks this afternoon for that. You know, a lot of our donations actually come from Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio. So the folks that do come every year and have been coming since 1990, 1991, everything like that. So as you know, we do have lots of different bands that come, military, New Orleans, different jazz, street bands, British Civil War bands, and those are always fun. For this year, what we're planning on doing, as you all know, 2020 didn't happen for anyone. Right now for 2021, we are planning to go forward. Of course, like I said, pending on rules and regulations. We're going to keep going forward. I have a meeting with Center on Thursday with the new president to kind of, you know, talk to them to see what their thoughts and feelings are, since we do a lot of things at Center, not only on campus, but with their dorms and things like that. So once we can get a little bit more information about that, that really drives us, you know, if we can't house 35-member bands from Canada, we kind of have to, that changes the musical direction of the different bands we can get. So there's a lot of really revolving factors that kind of come into play, but we do plan to have it. We'll, you know, if necessary, you know, scale down as needed, kind of like we were planning for this year, a little bit further. Right now the dates are set for June 10th through 12th. And we had already had artwork, posters they were halfway done, other than some sponsors and stuff. So we're going to move all that forward next year. So we've already kind of got that almost finished. Right now I have talked to several sponsors that did sponsor last year. Now there are a few sponsors that did have to, you know, things like, you know, 10th Planet and stuff like that. They don't have events and they haven't been able to make shirts and stuff like that. So, you know, there are a few people that the funding may roll over to, but generally everybody that's one of our sponsors, different levels, they've all been really, really helpful and saying, we'll support you, we'll be there for you. You know, 2020 was 2020. And they want to see it continue, you know, as a community event, local event, and also as a national event. I did bring a copy if anybody wants one. It's kind of the tentative schedule. So I don't know if you want me to pass these around, if anybody wants one, or you just want me to read it off. Because it is always still kind of fluid, depending on what regulations come down. So we plan to start Thursday evening with some of the events that we normally would, gallery hop, swing dance, things of that nature. Friday, which is June the 11th, hopefully if Chautauqua can have it. That's a little bit different because it is an indoor event. So the outdoor events, you know, kind of can go a little better off than the indoor. Balloon race, hey, Julie and Robert, and having Bayou and Brass with the New Orleans style music on Main Street. And then Saturday, still having the run, yoga, music in Whistler Park. Tom, who is our kind of point person for the parade, and then having music and our picnic still on Saturday, quilt show and sponsor reception. Of course, I put location TBD on the music and picnic, just pending on, you know, the outcome of the meeting with Center, if it's at Center, if it's in Whistler Park. So just a couple of those factors are still into play right now on where we can have it, and that also will, you know, affect bands and the size of the bands, you know, stage and stuff like that. So we're planning and going forward. The fall donation campaign will be kicking off probably here at the beginning of November, where we'll mail out to individual donors that, you know, they support us, maybe $25, maybe $300, just any and everything. And then we are also going to be participating in the Good Giving Challenge, which is an online social media awareness kind of donation campaign the first week of December through it's Bluegrass Gives. And hopefully it has a lot of matches and stuff, so folks that some of our sponsors will be doing their sponsorship that way so money can be matched. So if someone was donating $2,000, you know, we might get $3,000 out of it instead. So trying to push those dollars as far as we can and get as much out of it and maximize it. So trying to keep it short. I know you guys probably have some questions. But tentatively, we are planning to go forward, and we'll just be very fluid, kind of like we did this year. We rescheduled it twice this year, first in July and then September, and then ultimately had to cancel the whole thing. So we planned as much as we could and continue to go forward, and we'll do that again for 2021, and fingers crossed.
I would add too that first of all, I'm more optimistic than Missy, which has kind of been my job. She has planned for every possible negative contingency. I'm sitting here thinking, you know, so we did reschedule. In April, we realized June wasn't going to happen, period, end of story. We moved out to July, we're hopeful. We realized that's not realistic either. When we met in August to talk about September, there was still a chance we thought we could do it. There was a few very small events that happened. Obviously, I'm glad we didn't, considering I think we were in what would now be called red in Boyle County on the date that we would have had it in September. If we were talking about this happening in January, I think I would continue to use the word tentative. Based on what we're hearing from CDC, I'm going forward with the belief that by June, I can't say that it'll be I think the record attendance we had was 40,000. I don't know if that is possible or not, but I think something that's a whole lot more normal by June is probably pretty realistic. And I will say the other side of that coin is, if we're the first or one of the first events of our kind to go in this new normal, that it might be it might be a banner year. I don't guess anybody, there's still factors beyond COVID, weather, obviously we dealt with in 2019, which I think was the first year we'd ever had anything like that happen. But I would point out two things. One, we still have expenses that go on year round. The free festival is not free. I use a lot, and it takes a lot of planning from a lot of people. Everybody that really enjoys the festival and always has things to contribute, I promise, should get on this board for a couple of years and your eyes kind of open to something. As you all know, on this this body. The other, because I know there's been a lot of talk about tourism today, I don't think you can overstate the importance that the festival is to Gamble's marketing, for lack of a better word. You look through the courthouse, there's, you know, every room, certainly the judge's office, you know, is wall to wall with those posters. My wife was looking this morning, there were 6 articles just in the last few months, national publications that talked about this festival. If you Google Danville, Kentucky, it's, you know, always within the first 2 paragraphs. Center College and Brass Band Festival, in the first 2 paragraphs of what, you know, what makes Danville unique, what makes Will County unique. So I think it's a signature thing that over the last 30 years has become a real part of the fabric of this community, and so it's something we've got to protect, support, and grow. And if Mother Nature would cooperate with us, that'd be great. If y'all could pass a resolution on that, that would be wonderful. As it is, all we can ask for is that you support us financially.
Yeah, I will let you know that normally there is a director and assistant. It is just me going forward for this year, so I'll be so cutting out the assistant. So volunteers, anyone? But it really does. I mean, we have it. Obviously, our board is volunteers, and they put in a lot of, especially a lot of effort this year with me and text messages and stuff too, since we couldn't meet in person a lot. But we are working on, you know, trying to obviously cut where we can. We're pretty bare minimum to keep an office open and everything like that with rent, and you saw everything, you know, just the things to keep it going so people can come visit us. So, you know, we have an office so we can apply for grants. So we're having, it's not me just working out of my home or anything like that. So just kind of the bare bones that we can do, and it'll just be me going forward and lots of volunteers. And hopefully the goodwill of everybody that is looking to, you know, like Patrick said, find some sort of new normal, at least for next year. But we are going forward, and hopefully.
I like the direction. I was excited when I heard you were going to be the new director. You know, I'm familiar with your work at Hart. I know you're a hard worker. I appreciate the fact of watching, you know, taxpayer dollars that are given to this festival, and with like we said with the previous guest, that we'll get a return on that money as well. And so so thank you.
Yes.
Do you have regularly scheduled meetings with Main Street, with Jeff Jewell, with all the entities, with CVB, all the entities that can help?
We don't, but we...
Because you're looking for the volunteers, and they're not volunteers, they're on a taxpayer payroll.
Well, they definitely do. They are supporters, volunteers. We have we definitely do an information booth every year, which is run by CVB, and they're
I just schedule something
yes.
throughout the year.
I think if your question home was, do we have regularly scheduled meetings? No.
Not with them.
I'm saying those specific
How many
meetings.
times a month do you think you meet with Jen Kirshner?
Well, not often, but we text, because we obviously, where I used to work at the Heart of Danville, Jen was the CVB director. Started with Julie at the Heart of Danville, so it's very Danville.
I can't say there's anything scheduled, Tom, but the cross communication.
That's critical with the shortfall of staff.
Yeah.
When it negates the need for call.
Good.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely.
Technology
we're in
now
contact.
kind of is at your advantage, where I mean, before you had to schedule meetings because we didn't have all the technology we have now. So now
Yeah,
it's
no, we
more
are
important.
in constant contact. I had a meeting several weeks ago, even with some of the former directors, just to kind of get feedback from them and their thoughts on ideas and what's worked, what hasn't worked,
All right.
you know, all that different sort of stuff.
Well,
so.
I can say I feel better about the county tax dollars in the hands that it's in right now. So so I think we're okay, and I appreciate you guys coming in.
I learned a lot in 2019 when most of the GAB, Great American Brass Band Festival, was held indoors in the center. What I did learn, and I thought it went off extremely well under the weather conditions that existed at the time, and I think everybody, without saying a whole lot, will realize that there were a lot of costs associated with that, bringing it indoors, that were unusual, and they were circumstantial at the time. Going forward, have y'all given consideration to maybe other venues, open air, providing the weather cooperates, like Millennium Park, or something else where you don't have some of those associated costs?
Actually, you're pretty dead on. You've been eavesdropping in some of our meetings, it sounds like. But
He's a Zoom whiz.
I always like to say sometimes, you can pull a rainbow out of a storm cloud. The COVID thing's horrible. We all get that. But sometimes, and you'll find this with some of the industries too, this gives you a chance to reinvent stuff. That, we can't do it the way we've always done it. Let's look at doing something different. And there's some of us, I've been involved with logistics for 28 years. And you always sit back after when we do our recap meeting and say, it took us 16 years to figure out to use a forklift rather than students to handle the staging. I mean, you were there, helped with some of that. It's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a smarter way to do this. Change of venue, I won't say that's maybe at the top of the list of doing some things, because this gives us a chance to reinvent a lot of things.
I mean, the center's a beautiful venue, but
Beautiful venue, but do we need to?
Well, one thing we have done concrete is we met with the city prior to COVID. That rain plan that we put into effect, I will tell you, my wife worked intensively on that with Bayou Brass and was thrown together on a shoestring.
Jenny McClure and Tony Gray did that in 15 minutes?
Well, it was a little longer than that. That was the idea part. The implementation was down to the last second.
But it worked, and it's like, whoa,
it did.
we should have thought of this.
Back to the city because they wanted a rain plan for our ABC license, and we put forth a plan to the city manager and Bridget that said, okay, we're going to do this every year. That'll be the rain plan. It's free. It's undercover, but it's still open air. This was pre-COVID, but that means even more now. The surgery center very nicely said, okay, well, as long as we have some advance notice, we can clear out our parking spaces. Farmers Bank has the rest of them. We're already doing that. That worked seamlessly, apparently, because apparently nobody knew we didn't have a rain plan until 2 hours before it started, or at least not to that extent. We had never had a situation where the whole weekend got rained out. I doubt we would use, I don't want to foreclose it completely, but I doubt we would use Cowan again, just because once we had a chance to see how each worked, the parking garage worked better, and certainly cheaper. So, those are the kind of things Tom's talking about.
Are there instances to help with fundraising to help you throughout the year, or you can have some of these groups come in on a spot basis and charge an admission for some way, shape, or form to generate a increased revenue for the main event?
We have looked at that. That was on our agenda to do, but like a lot of other public events, that's kind of like time out.
Because of COVID.
Well, we've also talked about doing events.
Quarterly.
Smaller events, but ticketed events, because what makes ours really unique within the music community is that it's still a free festival.
Oh, it does.
We try to
it needs to stay that way if you can.
But if we can do some of these other things as ticketed events, and partner with, maybe some other entities to do it.
Yeah, we brought up literally at our board meeting last week about the quarterly events. I mean, Chief Gray actually brought it up. And I'm all for it, but, with this year, we gotta kinda, we will, yes, when we get to it.
So you gotta get real creative on what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see some new creative stuff come out this next year that's just, we feel is gonna be not a lot different, but substantially different.
Reinventing the wheel. I like it.
Yes.
We did have one of our New Orleans musicians actually volunteered to do a YouTube concert for us. I don't know if we've even got the ability to do that.
I know.
Those are the kinds of things we're talking about. And that was his idea. He loves coming up here so much.
I've talked to Jennifer a lot. I said, I'm still waiting for somebody to do a concert on the top of that roof of that parking garage. So, so anyway.
And that, see, we get new ideas every day.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for?
Phil did.
Phil does? Nope. Okay.
Sign me up for the Pepsi booth.
Yeah, you're a Pepsi volunteer, James.
Anybody else?
I'll get you involved.
We'll take volunteers anywhere we can get them, guys.
Yeah.
We need bus drivers. We need all kinds of stuff.
You and Danville.
Yeah, golf cart drivers. Well, if not, we'll get out of your hair.
It could be feasible.
Try to hurry you on to the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Can you all send Steve in?
presentation.
Steve Hunter, thank
We
you.
will. See if he's out here. All right, you go this way.
They say, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you,
All
Tom.
right, my next?
Yes.
Told Steve, the old adage on hikers use, that, the first hiker wakes the snake up, the second hiker ticks him off, and the third one gets bit.
I've been watching.
Kind of like a football game.
Good thing is I had time, and as you all know, I live in Lincoln County. I was able to vote like 9 times here in Boyle County.
Well, good.
Worked out pretty good. Depends on how you voted.
Good tell you had 5 minutes.
They just kept putting me back in line. I don't know.
I did tell him he had 5 minutes. I did tell him that.
Good.
It's gonna take less than that, I think. All right.
3 minutes and we're out.
You're our kind of guy.
You're making yourself a hero if you take less than 5.
Yeah, I'll give him, sorry. All right, so I know what we do every time you guys bring me in here quarterly or twice a year, just give you a P&Z update. And I brought you something a little more unique than you've ever seen, and I'm not going to go through it in detail, but I was back at my place watching the EDP presentation and know where you guys are as a court, and I think it's interesting when you talk about economic development and other issues. When you're at the Planning Commission, everything that happens in your town is rolling through our office. And so what you got here is the first quarter of a fiscal year. I'm not going to go back to January because I live on a fiscal year like you guys do, ties into my budget. So these are right off our P&Z agendas for July, August, and September. So I'm going to give you a first quarter little summary, and I'm not going to go through this, but the measurement of our community is literally on these pages right here. Everything we do, subdivisions, whether we're cutting off 1 acre or 50 acres, site plans, zone changes, CUPs, zoning permits. I'm going to walk you through real quick just where we are after the first quarter and where we were last year. So there's a number you don't see, and I'm going to tell you the comparison and just tell you where we're at and what we've done the first quarter. So the first thing you see there says subdivision approvals, and I put in parentheses 26. Subdivisions approvals, when you hear the word subdivision, I guess you think of streets and houses, but a subdivision could be Tom selling 1 acre to Ronnie to add to his farm. A subdivision is just we move land, whether it's a 1/4 acre or we
Ronnie,
cut.
you don't want to be his neighbor. I'm just telling you
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. And I don't know what they paid, but it's probably a good deal. But
You overpaid, he's a Yankee.
it could be cutting off a 3 and a 4 off a farm. It could be putting in a new street and building whatever. So as you can see, we did 26 subdivision approvals, and that goes on that first page and runs on to the back. And I won't get into who and where and what, but I think it's interesting, most of these are in the county.
Yeah.
Almost all of these art plats come in the county. We're cutting up farms, 100 acre into 10s and whatever.
Steve, you and I talk a lot, and so it was interesting when Marty was talking about, where people are going to live. I know we've got a bustling opportunity with lots of subdivisions, traditional subdivisions that are looking to go. They're just looking for people. So.
Well, these aren't, I wouldn't say these are traditional. These are all, what you're seeing here, these are cutting up 5 acre tracts on Neal Road and cutting off on, these are people probably building houses at some point or swapping farmland. I don't know the details, but I do know there was 26 the first quarter, and last year at this time we had 19. So that's 7 more. That's not huge, but it's 7 on 26 on 19. That's a fairly good percentage.
But what's unique?
Yeah.
Well, what's unique about Boyle County is, and I get this quite a bit when I have conversations with people in my shop. We get people from out of town looking to come in because we have land that's very reasonable. They're looking to escape the states that they're in now. I mean, I've had 3 people that have bought property in Boyle County within the last 6 months that I've talked to.
New York City.
Huh? New York, Arizona. I met a great couple and their kids the other day from Arizona looking to purchase property, and they like the opportunity of what we have in the county. They're not looking for just to go into a neighborhood. They're looking for opportunity with a little land. So.
We don't measure the specifics of why they come here, what they're going to build. Rusty gets a building permit. You might buy a 5 acre tract, not build for 2 years. We don't know. These are the plats that came before our group.
Yeah.
They're $105 a piece, $100 recording fee. 19 is what we did last year. The first quarter we're at 26. It's interesting. But the next category, public hearings. This is where it gets a little more dire when you start to look at things. We've had 10 not yet. We had 10 public hearings this first quarter. Last year we had 2. When I first got here, we very rarely did a zone change. Now we've revised the zoning ordinance, we've changed some things, so we anticipated there'd be some different things coming in. But these are site plans, these could be CUPs at the Board of Adjustments, they could be variances, they could be zone changes. Anything that requires, it could be cell towers, anything that requires a public hearing, we have to advertise and go through a formal process. So we've done 10 already this first quarter, and we've got 3 on for Wednesday. 2 more site plans and a zone change in Junction City. So 10, last year we had 2, so that looks good. It's the next category that is concerning. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Zoning permits are where the rubber kind of meets the road. A zoning permit you have to do if you're going to build commercial, industrial, or multifamily. You have to come in the office and actually get a permit. So we've only done 6 this first quarter, and unfortunately 3 of those are food trucks, temporary permits. We've done 0 construction pretty much this year. Last year we were at 15, just through the first quarter. The big thing is that's our money driver for our budget, or zoning permits are kind of our bread and butter, but we're not doing any construction. So we're platting property, doing some public hearings, but we're not building anything. To take that a step further, and I don't think this is anybody's to blame anybody, I've been here 3 years, we haven't built a fourplex. We built a few homes. We're trending well in single-family developments, a few duplexes. We ain't built a fourplex in Boyle County. We ain't built an apartment building. Very few new subdivisions with new streets, almost none. Except Hunt Farm Section 4, no relation to the judge. I'll just put that out there. Winning Colors just filed a plat for an extension there in Candlewood. But we haven't built any subdivisions, streets, or new developments that other communities are kind of, their benchmark on their population growth comes from new residential.
Yeah, so, because that was one of the things that, Marty brought up, and I know that is one of our real challenges, because, as he said, we've got 500 jobs, and we need affordable housing for people to live in, to come to our community, to live and work here.
Sure.
And so what is our strategy?
It's not me. Unfortunately, I'm the planning commission. I just process the applications coming through. If you want my opinion, and I'll give it to you, of course. I think housing can be a targeted industry like economic development. I do know other towns, I lived in one, that incentivized housing. The way you would maybe acquire real estate for a factory, I know they acquired real estate to flip to a developer to put townhomes in or put starter homes in or do housing authority projects. Housing can be a targeted industry. And what's interesting about that is then that brings construction jobs. They're temporary, but there's growth and then there's more housing starts. Some towns just wait on it by the market, land gets bought, developers got to get the price points right, and then everything works. Other towns have incentivized the construction industry. As you know, Fayette County does very little manufacturing, if none. That's not even on their radar. It's housing, white-collar jobs, commercial offices. They're targeted.
I'm going to cut you off there real quick because we're delving into an area where our smart growth friends are going to get real upset. We start talking about developing because really the only places we can develop is in the county. So I would not encourage
housing
that we. I think we've got a good amount of housing going on right now. I can tell you, Hunt Farm, they've got.
Well, but I don't think, Jason, I don't think it's the housing that the commission. Yeah. Let me just jump in for you real quick.
Yeah, okay.
So some targeted housing is affordable housing.
Right.
And I'm not aware we're building anything under that $150,000 price point that was talked about maybe on Baughman. So some smart growth. I think we are building the 200 to 400 stuff. I mean, Rusty's getting permits, a lot of building
Hunt Farm's
permits.
150 to 200,000.
Some of them, the newest house under construction I heard might be sneaking up close to 275.
Well,
Shelby Green, the new section, or I don't know, that's starter homes. And then to take it one step further, no multifamily. There's a lot of people that can't buy homes that need to get in that $600, $700, $800 range for a duplex or townhome. They'd love to have a garage, but we've got very few townhomes that are out there that you could rent. I know myself, I looked for 2 years before I found a place in another county. So I think you can always improve your housing on all
I'm just
stocks.
saying we have to be careful where we're not going to go and give away land.
No, I understand that.
Because we can only
I'm just saying
we
other
only
towns
have so much within city
other
limits.
towns have done that to get the affordable housing.
Yeah, I think you can do some infill
in the city, especially
redevelopment, and you can infill into your.
Well, we haven't done any. Let's just leave it at
4
that.
or 5 years ago, Lexington emphasized those empty lots in town, in Lexington. Do we have a count of all those?
We don't have a count, but we got an idea. People call me and say, hey, I'm looking for 5-8 acres. I'd like to do
I'm talking
this.
about in town, a half an acre to build a house on, or or do stay within?
We don't track that. We would track more the multifamily. If someone came in and said, look, I'd like to do some townhomes, what's out there, what's the zoning, what zoning do you have on the map that would be conducive to what I'm looking for? But we don't get many calls like that, if hardly any.
Here's a problem. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What happened to the complex was going in Junction?
That's the zone change Wednesday.
Okay,
That-
so
that'd
they
be-
still gonna do that?
Yeah, that's Mr. Float. Zone change is set for tomorrow. That'd be 275 units.
Yeah.
There's also some apartments being talked about. Shelby Green is 37 lots, and there's another 60 being proposed. So interesting enough, Junction City could have 200 or 300 new lots.
That could fill a lot of jobs.
That could help a lot.
In
That
Junction.
could help a lot.
Yeah. So that's great, but I'm still not seeing a multifamily really,
Yes.
which I think is a need out there that clearly is
I
not
have
out there.
concerns, especially within the city, because you get into like a situation where Louisville, where you get a bunch of developers coming into the city, and then they start pricing people out of that area, you know, which
Again,
is.
these are all philosophical. I'll just
Yeah, I
tell
know.
you, we
Anyway.
haven't done any. So
You're over your 5 minutes.
Yeah, so there we go. You guys took all my time for me here. And so, hey, so I want to go back to these zoning permits again, though. We're just not doing commercial either.
Well, what's going on
Offices.
over by Valvoline? What's going up there?
It's just a 2,800 square foot building, and most of that's going to be blacktop for a used car dealer.
Okay.
Zone commercial.
Finally sold that lot.
It's zone commercial, we don't police the uses. If it's zone commercial, you can do what commercial allows, and it's a fairly small building, 2,800 square foot, it's pretty small.
Okay.
So that's concerning that we did 15 zoning permits last year. Some of those were manufacturing expansions, some of those were distillery related. We'll probably get some of those coming in. But going down to the next item, that's what drives our budget, and I want to point out some of those. I gave you a budget category here. You don't typically see this, but our city-county revenue was budgeted at $120,000. Year to date, we're right on target at 30. As you know, that the city gave us a 33% cut. You guys barely cut us at all, and we appreciate that. But we're right on target with our revenue. But it's interesting, the next line, our budgeted first quarter revenue should have been $38,300 for fees. Year to date, or I'm sorry, that's the entire year, $38,300. Our year to date was $15,930, so we're at 42% on our revenue stream on non-government money.
Have you had a conversation with the new city manager to see if they'll reconsider that?
They told me if we had a problem, we'd be good. But what I'm getting ready to show you here, we're at 42% target right now after this first quarter. It's not being driven by the zoning permits. It's the fact we've had all these subdivision plats coming in. That's what's really feeding the monster right now.
That's kind of a false negative then.
It is, and it's going to wane down here in the winter months. Just by comparison, we haven't took a single check in the month of October. Not a single application's come in or fee. Mr. Floats was from last month. It was tabled. So this is the first quarter. It should balance itself out by December. I also want to point out that our expenses were right on target. Our yearly expenses are $197,801. We were spot on at $47,110 at 24%. And then the next two things you never see, but I'll just put them on there. There's our checkbook balances. So we got six-figure money in our general operating fund. It's targeted. That's going to drop quite a bit because that's when the city cut us. We knew we'd be losing a little carryover. The other one is our actually surety account. We're holding money like for Hunt Farms and developments that aren't finished. That's developer money we hold in a separate account. We got about 4 projects we're trying to get finished up. One's Maple Tree Avenue's drainage. But there's our checkbook balance. Last thing on here is the Bluegrass ad. We do have a $2,500 GIS contract that we're under. We reduced it slightly. That's our first quarter right there. I want to open up any questions. I also brought you one other thing since I came over. We did get our audit done. The goal is to get it done by October every year. This letter is actually dated for Thursday, but I thought I'd bring it over today since I was here. Save me a trip. And this is our audit. It has been finished. It is a clean audit. It's there for you guys to study up, read, whatever you want to do. It's a cover letter to the judge. The audit's good.
Do you ever think about trying to save paper?
No, I don't. Because you guys give me the money, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Cuts down the trees so we can have lots.
Look, you could read that. I could email it to you, but like you guys, if you wanted to mark on it.
Too much to email, yeah.
That's the audit. They put way too much in it because of the state pension requirements now. Half that audit is stuff that has to go with that.
Yeah.
Stuff really doesn't relate to us. But the audit's good, and that's something I take personal pride in because that's important. That's our first quarter. That's all I was going to do. I'm glad to
Congratulations
answer
on a
any
good audit.
questions you guys might have or generalities on other issues or.
On that 56,000, is there any holdback for the flooding problems that we've talked about at Dollar General?
That's not a bonded project. So let me explain the difference real quick. We only bond things that relate to subdivision construction. Our subdivision regs are about platting property and building public streets. We only bond the public infrastructure related to a new subdivision where we're building a street. So like for Hunt Farm, Section 4, that's 700 foot of road and a cul-de-sac, we bonded that $252,000. So we hold the developer's money until it's completed and we release it incrementally. But a project like that was a site plan development, already zoned. We don't have authority to bond anything related to if Walmart goes out and builds a new building, we don't bond that. We just give them the approval to build, and they're either in violation or not.
Gentlemen, Ron and I share that triangle of land where, in Parksville where Dollar General was built, and I brought it up before. We do have a flooding concern, but I guess that's going to be private.
Their engineer disagrees with that, and again, this gets back to they had an engineer that certified the plans, and they said it was either designed or built right. We're not engineers, so I can't go out and say that it wasn't constructed right.
So
If somebody doesn't, if the county went out there, let's say, and said, we think it's a flooding problem, I would suggest the first steps, we go back to their engineer or dollar store, and let's work this out. It could be a zoning violation if they clearly didn't build what the plan showed.
I think they did, though.
But I think they did build, it was just maybe they missed their design target. I think that's fair, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So anyhow. Any other questions in general? or-
Congratulations on a clean audit. Does anybody have anything else?
Again, I want to keep this simple and not debate some
I
of these issues,
appreciate
but
the good report. It's very
Yes.
good. This
you
is
guys
good
were
information.
interested in participating in whatever the solution is, whether it be housing or economic development or whatever, but right now, it's slow. I'll just tell you, it's the slowest month since I've been here.
It's expected.
And some of this is COVID, and it's just, folks aren't doing, price of lumber's through the roof right now.
That's a big factor.
Holy
Yeah, you
moly.
need to find it.
People are holding.
Yeah.
They're holding it back. See if it
Yeah,
gets any
OSB
better.
you
is
can't even find it.
nutty.
Probably not.
All right, get out of here.
All right.
Hey, thank
Thanks
you
a
guys,
bunch.
appreciate
You
it.
can
See y'all,
send
talk
in,
soon, thank you.
And when Steve says, let me explain this to you real quick, it's never quick.
Ask me 5 questions. I'm just kidding. Let me get out and vote a couple more
If
times.
we
I'll
could-
see you.
If we
Please
could
do.
adjust, if Trille's out there, she's gonna be real quick, and she's second.
You want her?
Let Trille come first.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll talk to the sheriff after that.
Thank you,
Sheriff
guys.
will be quick, too.
Thank you.
Huh?
Sheriff will be quick, too.
No.
No, not with number 2.
Jason, you've asked your chair this morning, so you need to be quiet a while.
Who woke Phil up? That's all I want to know.
I'm trying to be respectful to our speakers.
Somebody put some melatonin in his coffee.
All right, Mr.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Good, glad to be here. Good to see you guys.
Sorry it took so long to get to you.
I haven't seen all of y'all collectively for a long time.
I move we approve
We
the,
appreciate you letting us use your room here.
Hey, I appreciate you all letting me use the room. Very much so. Very much so.
I move we approve the quarter
Yay.
report. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the clerk's quarterly report
Second.
as presented.
Thank
It's
you.
been seconded by Magistrate Salmons.
Not that they're anxious, but some of the folks around me are asking when they're going to get their tax bills.
They'll come out November 1st.
Thank you.
Like always.
Do y'all want to hear any election statistics?
Yeah, tell us how it's going.
Okay, so we've had about 3,600 mail-ins. We've had about 4,500 walk-ins. That's here and at the Armory, so we're at about a 37% turnout right now.
That's good.
Which is phenomenal.
That is good.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Great.
Your staff.
So,
Silver lining on COVID.
that's right.
And you said according to the radio, you expected 72%.
Yeah.
So you're probably right.
Never been that way before, has it?
It's been up there, but not,
But not
I don't ever remember
I don't
70%.
remember being
Probably in
that
the
high.
history of doing.
I
Right.
thought if we hit 40%, we're
It was
doing
pretty
good.
good last
A
year.
lot of the absentee
Yeah.
ballots are going to the
I
cemetery.
mean, it's
Presidential.
16, it was good.
Well,
Presidential.
y'all can attest that are up here and working that the hall is very busy. So,
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
it is.
it is,
It is.
people just
It's
coming
pretty
in.
steady flow.
It's very
pretty
steady.
flow.
Thank you,
If,
ma'am.
if,
Thank you, ma'am.
hey,
Thank
truly,
you,
if it
ma'am.
helps, you can tell anyone waiting in line they can go talk to the judge if they have any questions.
And then I'll send them down to the hub to get a coffee.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. One of our 2 fine locations.
Sheriff
All right,
Robbins.
Sheriff.
I don't know. Jane,
Yes, but I
huh?
don't know where the sheriff
I'll let
You
him
had to go
do
to
his
work.
quarterly report first.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, he brought
There
back
he
up.
is. We're in trouble now.
You brought your big gun with you.
You wanna do your quarterly report first there, Sheriff?
Sure. I think, did everybody get copies of it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's really
Do we need to approve anything? If so, I'll make the motion we
Second.
approve.
nothing that we didn't expect.
Motion
Revenues
been
are down a
made
little bit.
second, Judge, approve it.
That's
All
about
right,
it.
motion made by Magistrate Cullen.
I think Phil beat me, sorry.
Did he? Okay. Motion to approve by Magistrate Sammons,
Second,
seconded by Ronnie Short, Magistrate Short.
Your second district.
That was a desist from Magistrate Cullen there. Is there any discussion on the quarterly report out of the sheriff's office?
Nope, good work, thank you, sir.
No,
Know you're doing the best you can.
Authorize me to sign it, to attest it.
Here, I'll give you my.
Okay.
That too.
All right, okay. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and motion carries. Thank you, sir. All right, now, we're gonna talk about body cams and dash cams.
Department alone, they got $246,661.62. So I think the best thing for us to do is give them that money. I
Right.
mean, that's their salary.
Give
they
them
pay
that money, and then,
And then they can use.
And they can go forward, and then they can handle it on their own. I don't think the physical court should pay for the camera.
Good.
Right, that was gonna be my question. So this would be a
No,
purchase
no way.
of the
That-
sheriff's
that makes no
department.
It'd just be a
and
reimbursement.
Owned and operated
Right.
by the sheriff's department.
They ain't us.
And one of the twists that we came up with is we were trying to get pricing for
Yeah, they did it,
storing this stuff in the cloud, which was extremely expensive. So I talked to Nick at the city, and they have a server that they utilize through WatchGuard, and theirs was, I think, 24 terabytes, something like that, and they have about twice as many cameras as we would be looking to get. So we got pricing for, instead of backing up to the cloud, they back up off-site on the same type of server.
they have redundancy in the city, which means they have a server at City Hall, and they have a server.
It's at Station 2 is what the way
Station
Nick
2,
explained
okay.
it. So
We
they just
would do the same
wirelessly
kind
send,
of-
back it up to another server, which is, I think that's on page 4 of the quotes that I passed out, or it's on page 3, I'm sorry. And that's a 16 terabyte server, and the cost of that's $59.95. And that's a one-time cost, obviously.
It's just the
But
same.
that- but that- for each one.
Yes, we had 2 of them. Yes, same everything.
They've been happy with their.
Yeah.
Sheriff,
So would
what's,
this item be in your budget as well?
I'm sorry?
With this storage?
It's all in this initial cost.
Okay.
all that is in
cost
this
up
two.
front,
Yeah.
It's all in that,
232,
with the exception of one thing, well, really, 1.5 things. The one thing is the personnel
Whatever you
to
chime in
manage
to.
the system. That's not included
Right.
in this 232. And there might be some associated cost to increase our Wi-Fi capability, not internet speed per se, but Wi-Fi capability, and there may not be any.
He said, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Bill.
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 He said, it wouldn't take a super special network, but we may have one that was dedicated that just serves from this server to the backup server. Am I right on that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But I don't think it's anything spectacular.
Okay.
Sheriff, my only question is, what's the capability on these? What do you expect, how long do you expect them to last before they're outdated?
I think is the warranty we have, is that a 6-year warranty? Is that what we?
I'm not worried about the warranty, I'm talking about,
Serviceability.
serviceability,
Yeah.
coming out with,
When they get outdated, you know.
being outdated with.
End of life.
Yeah.
The body camera itself, this is the first year of this model.
Okay.
So it's brand new. It's based off their previous one, but they pretty much what they did was they upgraded it to have a removable battery. So if you work a 12-hour shift and, you know, we have a burning train car and you gotta work another.
Well, you're still not getting my question.
Well-
How long will it be before they're outdated?
7
We
years.
can't say. Now, what we do have is the extended warranty that we're purchasing is if anything goes wrong with it, even if it falls off his shirt and gets run over by a truck, it gets replaced, all the way up till the warranty's gone.
Well, you're still missing my point.
6 years for that.
I'm talking about,
Technology.
when will this company come back and say, oh, you've got the old model, we need to update it, and it's gonna cost you X number of dollars to do that?
Well, we won't be required to update it until these just don't work anymore. They're still gonna work.
So we're looking at this amount of money maybe every 5, 6 years, or?
I don't know
You know
that.
what I'm saying? I mean, we're
like-
getting into quite a bit of money here. And if we're looking at this every 6 years, another $200,000 for
No.
cameras.
We're looking at, the cameras themselves are about 100.
100,000.
Mhm.
94,000.
But hey, that's still 100,000 of your
Oh,
taxpayers'
yeah,
money. So.
you ain't, yeah, I'm well aware of that, but I'm just, it's not gonna be this 232,000.
Every 6 or 7
Every 6 or 7
years or
years.
10
Well, I know you got somebody paying for it now through COVID, right?
Well, I mean, we're paying for it. It's money that we spent
Yeah, that's what I'm
already.
saying, but it's not coming out of
It's-
our budget.
it's not like a donated money or
But what I'm
anything.
saying, you know, it could, eventually it could come out of our budget.
Yeah, I agree.
Bill, are there
So-
any end-of-life concerns, or is that an issue that we need to know about or be concerned about?
Typically, stuff like this will be a couple of years after the warranty.
That's 8 years.
8 years.
Roughly.
We can't forget the cost avoidance of litigation here.
Yeah, Tom's
Have
exactly right.
one case and you're out.
250,000 compared to several $1 million on a problem that we don't have a way of producing evidence in a he said, she said kind of case.
How long we made it, Ronnie, without it?
So, I think,
Ronnie.
Yeah, we made it a long time without it. I mean, that could work both ways there.
Different society today.
I mean,
you know, you got stuff on camera. I mean, it could also go against you too. So.
I think that the sheriff will agree with me based on his histories. It seems to vindicate more than it convicts.
Right.
And that's the protection that we need for each of our deputies.
and it is.
And on occasion, guys, if something happens that's wrong, it's gonna show it.
Yeah.
It is what it
Yeah.
is.
You're better catching that
Accountability.
That's
problem
it right
sooner
there.
rather than
Gives
later
you
or
accountability
multiple
what-
times.
What people are doing.
So this one activates the minute.
I'm not against it. I'm not
No,
saying that
I'm
against
yeah,
it. Okay.
I understand it's a lot of money.
Right.
Yes, these have pre-event recording. This is
This is the important point that was made last time you made the presentation. It's on. It's recorded.
if something happens, we have the ability to hit a button and it catches
Reverts, yeah.
and reverts back.
So do we need to make a motion to move forward this, or what do we need, Judge?
I believe if everybody's in agreement with the purpose of the body cams, dash cams, we need to have a motion to approve the reimbursement of our CARES Act money to be presented to the sheriff's office in order to purchase this equipment. And then we will also need to commit to those things that he's not funding. Which, the things that he's not funding would be, no, the servers are in this. What you're not funding is
Extra bandwidth.
the person.
Right.
The person to manage.
And the person that I've spoken to is a retired police officer. He managed the system for the Danville Police Department. He's retired. So retirement, insurance, benefit package is he doesn't have to have that.
Yeah.
Which is a plus in that situation. So it would ultimately just be, an hourly.
Do you think this individual is interested?
He has expressed to me that if that position came available,
So
that he would.
that would be the only additional cost that the court would have to put into this total system.
As of right now.
As of right now.
As of right now. And at some point, that person may want to actually officially retire. So we may need to hire somebody else later on down the road that may require some of those things. We'll see.
very well.
But I'll go ahead and make the motion that we go ahead and allow this to happen with what you stated, and let's protect our officers and the community.
Motion to approve the sheriff's office to purchase the contract. Now, just to be clear, there is a sole source letter that exists on this vendor.
Yep.
Okay, and we have a copy of that if anybody wants to see it.
Yep, no, we had it last
Can I ask
time.
that question? Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
I need a copy of it, I didn't get it.
But motion made by Magistrate Cohen, seconded by Magistrate Ellis. Now, let's discuss it. Any discussion?
I got a question. When do we go live?
Okay,
It'll be a
Keegan's got a
while.
question.
12 weeks at least.
And that's to get them.
That's to get them.
And then
Training.
probably training, and then you've got 17 vehicles to install over a period of time. So it's not something. It's going to be it's just months down the
So
road.
how's this training paid for?
It's
included
included.
in this
It's
price.
included.
Okay, well,
The-
just want to be clear.
The time to get these cameras up and running is going to be a little longer than it was at our last meeting because they're selling so many of them in today's environment. Every day we wait, it
We get
pushes us
pushed
out
back
just
in
a
the
little bit farther in the
pecking order.
line.
I do have one question. So we've had instances where cars have, we've gotten rid of cars, cars have been damaged. How do those cameras get covered
come
in,
out.
if they're in, like an accident?
They're insured.
They're insured?
They would be part of the equipment package inside the vehicle from the time they're installed, and they would be insured as
Through Cape
to
But
be
if we need to
replaced.
if we need to replace a vehicle, we can easily take that camera out and put it in.
That's another thing that the gentleman that we're looking for to manage the system, he's going to be the one that actually installs them in all the cars also. So he has the ability to take them from one vehicle to
Great.
another, or if there was something going on, he has the ability to.
Wonderful.
Keegan,
He's charging so much per hour.
It's in here also, yes.
It's
That,
already
the
in there.
installation is in this also.
Excellent.
Sheriff came prepared, sir.
Keegan has some.
I just got two questions. Number one, just on that 6-year warranty, there's not gonna be any other expenses like that should cover everything.
You mean like a
Okay.
deductible?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, if something breaks, obviously it would be covered under the warranty and replaced. But I don't see us having.
There's like no more yearly expenses that we need to consider.
more hidden expenses.
Yeah, you know.
The only thing in the future is, for instance, if Sam retired, and and we got a new vehicle and it had to be moved from one vehicle to another
There might be
vehicle,
expense on moving.
then somebody's going to have to remove that and install it. That's an additional
Well,
expense.
that come out of your budget.
Right. It doesn't have anything to do. Yeah. It's
On
well. I
the-
mean the.
Should.
Y'all go ahead and train somebody on.
Well-
The warranty issue you're talking about, in the quote, it even tells what months the different warranty cost is, because it covers 1 through 12 months, 13 through 24, and so on. Because we're going on prepaying for
Right.
all the warranty for that entire length of period.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it also includes any upgrades that the system has during that time of which we are covered. I'm not sure, but I think that.
I don't know for sure, so I don't want to say yes. I would have to ask.
As far as modifications as it grows. I thought I remembered that, but I won't swear to it
Okay.
either. But
All right,
what else
perfect.
you got, Keegan?
Just so we're clear, we don't have anything in the budget for the employees, so we're gonna pay that, the court is gonna pay that?
The court will have to pay. That's not in the two.
That's not in this. No. The
That would be
the management.
a factor which we have to
I
negotiate.
just want
and pay.
everybody to.
That would be, that would come out of reserve, because it's not budgeted item. Everybody needs to know that going through with this.
Now, when would we get to that point? Is that
We
point
got a
that
little time because they got.
Is that a
people
point that
on
we
us.
can talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I'm honestly, as far as like specific discussions with him, I'm not really even prepared to even say, okay, it's this much and this is what, I would need a little bit of time and actually maybe speak to you guys and see where we're at on.
This is the first step, though. We need to
Right.
purchase it before we can employ somebody
Right.
to monitor it and stuff like that.
And
So
we need to do it before the end of the year. So
Yes,
that's what-
before the end of the year.
yeah.
I'd like to know which one.
One thing I want to talk about with the installation cost, the only thing that's not covered in installation is something I think Bill would be doing. Those servers, actually hooking those servers up wherever we're putting them, those are,
Yeah.
they're willing to consult and stuff, but they don't actually do the actual.
And just so
hooking up.
everybody knows, going the server route, which is in here, the two at $59.95 a piece, is gonna save us a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
Over the cloud storage and backup in the cloud. And we can still back up to the cloud through our better cruise service, which has unlimited storage and it's free.
In the 16 terabyte servers that we looked at are more than enough to handle the data that we'll be putting on
For
there.
17 deputies.
And that of the future, because I think Danville PD has a 24 terabyte server, and he says it stays at about 75% capacity. And so at 16 for what we are getting, that storage shouldn't be an issue with that.
So this motion authorizes the reimbursement there's to the sheriff's office authorized to enter into a contract with Watch Guard, and that's what we're talking about.
Great.
Anything else? Anybody?
Nope.
Any other discussions or questions? All those in favor of the motion for the approval of this before us, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is
Thank
a
you.
big. This is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
This is a big deal.
Thank you all very much for the hard work on
Thank
putting this
you. Thank
together.
you.
Well, it's a testament to kind of everybody coming together and making it happen, because I would, if you would have put that amount of money in front of me without what's going on right now, I'd have said, I'll never see it. You know,
We don't trade the old cameras.
just because, yeah. We can get
You gonna practice on the old set
a
upstairs?
pack of AA batteries for it and some bubble gum, yeah.
Times have changed since John and I came on the court. The sheriff had about 5 or 6 deputies and 3 cars that ran.
So how many deputies we have now?
Counting the school resource officers, I think 17.
You think?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all
Thank
your
you very
hard work.
much.
Huge move forward.
Damn shame.
You send Duane in?
Duane Campbell next.
I think it's a shame they don't have any employees you got.
I'm waiting in line.
Patiently waiting in line.
Recently waiting in line. Thank you, sir.
How many employees the county have there?
Trail grant
What do
finalization.
you think?
I heard it doesn't.
Don't know
Okay.
how many
Do
damn
what?
employees you got.
Wait a minute.
No, oh, sorry.
He's not telling
Nah,
them all.
Phil's over there.
All right.
Causing a ruckus.
All right. I think we finally, I hope we have everything in order for us on our end. So we're here today to ask for your approval of a resolution, which hopefully I think everyone at least has a copy of that in their folder today.
We do.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
got you. I
All
got
right,
you.
motion made by, see, the motion made by
Ronnie threw us.
Magistrate Short. He threw everybody into a tizzy on
Yeah.
this. Who seconded that? Okay.
Tom, he's looking to take over your
Tom,
district now. He wants to be the first.
To approve the resolution 20-1027.01 regarding the trail lines for 2168 connection. Do I need to read that, or is that okay?
No.
That's fine. I just want to, for the notes to reflect that it was made, or unanimous. Once everybody votes, if it is unanimous.
Okay. You want to raise a hand so we can see this unanimous?
That'd be good.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the approval of the resolution? All those in favor of approving the resolution as stated, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Okay.
What this does, we have an amended agreement that the judge will sign, and we'll get this done this afternoon. We have another document that we have to sign, which submits a whole lot of other information that I have already pulled together that has to go to them as well. We will then wait on their approval to start the construction. Now, prior to that, we also have to accept a bid.
I move we accept the bid
Okay, of
of
the Allen Company.
Company as a qualified bid,
Second.
qualified low bid.
Third.
You want to read the actual number?
Sure.
Who had the other bid?
It was,
In the amount of $312,415.78, $312,415.78 from the Allen Company. That's a qualified bid.
What about the other company that had a 306 bid?
They are not allowed.
They came in without their proper information.
Right, well, one of the requirements for all bidders is they had to be on the pre-qualified bidder list with the state, with the transportation cabinet, and the other company was not on that list as of September the 2nd, which was the day the bids were open. We've had several correspondence with this company, and I know it's difficult, and
but, you know, that was the statement in the specifications.
And that's gone all the way back through all the state coordinating agencies in response to the bid process.
Yes.
This was discussed in the last meeting, was it, or the
Right.
meeting before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So, and
Perfect.
I think I gave you copies of that correspondence.
You did.
See those, what we received from the Transportation Academy. So.
Wonderful.
So we have a motion to approve the bid
We're
specifications.
really not supposed to accept the bid until the grant agreement gets finalized.
Okay?
No, that's not absolutely true, but I understand what you're
Well,
saying.
yeah, you know.
I hear what you're saying. We have the
I'm talking to
agreement.
Mary about it.
We have the agreement. You just approved the resolution, so the agreement all it has to do is be signed and it's
Okay,
sent
so we're
back.
good there?
Yeah.
All right.
So then, but as a part of that
I'll
information.
I'll
yeah.
make the motion contingent upon the agreement being signed.
Yeah, yeah, and that's fine. Just
Well, I tell you what, I'm impressed with our treasurer, he's on the ball.
Let's make it
No.
contingent upon the
No,
agreement being signed.
you're asking the right question.
I second it.
Yeah.
Okay, motion is made with the contingency of the agreement being signed. Now, the agreement and the resolution are different.
Yes.
Okay. The
It was-
resolution is signed. And it's been it's been made by Magistrate Gay and seconded by Magistrate Short.
Yes.
Is there any discussion on the motion to accept the bid contingent upon a signed agreement?
No.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
One hand.
Motion carries.
One hand again, Chris.
Wait, last day the asphalt's being laid this year.
Don't know yet.
It's
Don't
weather
know yet.
related.
Yeah.
Weather related.
You know.
May not make it this year,
to-
but everything else
yeah.
should be down, I
To
hope.
to answer your question, they normally would like to close on that Friday before Thanksgiving or Saturday before Thanksgiving week. They don't like to work that week of Thanksgiving. But if the weather's good and they have enough work, I mean, you know, they have gone to the middle of December.
Good, good, 'cause
So
we got others.
Right, right.
All right.
Let me give you a quick update on Mitchellsburg Knob.
It's not on the
This
agenda.
morning. Okay. All right, I don't have to give you an update.
Since it'll be new, I'll bring it up.
They're waiting on the Allen Company to move into our county to do some paving, and they're going to do some patching for the state. And that patching will include the work on Mitchellsburg Knob. It'll also include patching over the tile, the replacement of the tile on 34, right out here, right outside of town on Lebanon Road. That's what they're waiting on as far as the pavement, you know.
Yeah, 'cause it's terrible
Right.
out there.
You know,
That's Phil, that's in your
They've
district.
just put some base down on the knobs, all they've done, and then, of course, that tile replacement, it's rough. But that's all, they're just waiting on the Allen Company to come and patch that, okay?
Surely they're gonna put those guardrails up.
They're waiting on that too, they're waiting on
But
that
that'll happen
contractor.
before the asphalt.
It doesn't have to.
Duane,
It
is
doesn't have
that Mitchellsburg Knob Road, are they, I get the impression this is a temporary fix. Is that true, or what do you think?
No, sir.
I don't get that impression.
You don't think
That's
so?
not-
No, we went out there and looked.
Yeah, it's
and
not
the
their
baskets
intent.
and everything they put in there, and what they've done since then, and what they plan to do, it's not just a temporary fix.
It's gonna be okay?
I think so.
It'll be okay.
We hope so, yeah.
That's what it'll be, is
Yeah.
okay.
They, you know, they still have to drive.
Nothing more.
They still have to drive new guardrail posts and put up new guardrail. And then with those posts, they'll also put new cribbing around the edges of that to help hold those shoulders in place around, you know, around both those curves. So that
Well,
work's still to be done.
That's straight down, I don't see how they're gonna.
Yeah.
That's gonna be an amazing feat of engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope it holds. But
Wayne, one other, change in subject, back to the, trails. I've been talking with Mark Morgan quite a bit on the trail out on Hughes Lane. And, what you're thinking or possibility of bringing that on to 150?
I mean, it's an option. Of course, you come across all those properties.
The right of way that the county owns, is it enough to have the trail on the edge of that, you know, that, road out that way very narrow?
Yeah, I'd have to research that.
I don't
It
think
would
we
have to be on the
that.
east side of the
Well, we have
road.
20 foot or 18,
Excuse me?
the right of way we have out there. on Hughes Lane.
I'd have to look. I mean, on the left side going in, there's more because each of those lots was platted, and I
Yeah.
suspect there's probably an additional right of way that was
That's where
platted.
it'd
part of
be,
it.
you know, going in, but I just wonder.
Yeah. So.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Dwayne.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Duane.
Have a good day. All right. What we need to see, nobody's next, so we'll talk about Birthplace of Kentucky. Do we want to table, the renaming, the naming of the Conference Education Center?
Judge, let me work with both county attorney and Julie to clean up my notes that nobody can read but me. But it would take too much of our time today to go through it, and I think we're satisfactory on some of those changes, correct? And I
We
think
talking
Chris-
about the rental agreement or what?
Yes.
Actually, after you said that, I went back over the
There's
rental
several more.
agreement, and I found some things, and I've emailed them to Julie, and so if you can take that and then take Tom's and
I'll work.
compare
Great.
and contrast.
Gotta save
and
time
we'll
today.
figure it out.
Come back another day.
So what do we need to table? The whole thing, or?
No, we don't need to table anything if we approve the rental agreement that you have with the corrections made by council and with the corrections made in agreement between Julie and Tom. If we agree to those, we can approve the rental agreement. And it's word.
It's not of substance, it's just grammatical or
substance.
spelling.
There's substance in a couple cases. You haven't seen them yet.
Well, then we can't do that if that's
Well,
the
we can
case.
do, what's gonna happen in the next 2 weeks that a nonprofit's gonna come our way, or anybody?
Well,
There
we
is
should-
one.
Oh, there is.
There is.
But, it's already been approved based on just our conversations with the McDowell House. This is really for going forward, probably in the spring, so I think we could table it, make sure we got it right, so we don't have to do this.
So
again.
table the agreements, but we can still talk about the name change?
Yes or no? Anybody? We have,
This is.
I make a
the
motion to
agreement.
table the agreement today.
The agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, motion made to table the discussion on the rental agreement today until the next time, and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With
Okay,
great
motion-
appreciation to the committee on their hard work.
Yes, please. And, so it is tabled. Do we go to the next?
Ex-committee.
Go to the,
Name change.
name change?
Yes.
We'll discuss the name change. We have a recommendation, we have a one-page, name change consideration. We discussed earlier, what do you want to do on that?
Do we need a motion to proceed for discussion?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion that the amended draft be adopted today.
Everybody knows what we're talking about, the amended draft.
The one that says revised?
Correct, the one that says revised.
Okay, just make sure.
The motion is to accept that as the consideration for the name change.
Second.
Motion made by Magistrate Ellis, seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Is there discussion on the revised one-page name change document that you have before you?
The judge and I had an excellent conversation that started yesterday, but with breakdowns with AT&T.
Oh, my goodness. It was ridiculous.
If his didn't go down, mine did. But considering the fact that 6 or 7 years ago, we had people in from 15 or 18 states because of the incredible significance of Judge Samuel McDowell, not the least of which was the quote from Dr. Tom Clark on his 100th birthday, that had it not been for Judge Samuel McDowell, we could easily be Europe West, meaning our entire nation. I've been lobbying hard for all those years to have that be the name. However, to honor the group that's worked hard on this, and to honor some considerations that Julie has updated me on this morning, and in our conversation this morning, the judge and me, the judge has an excellent idea that annually we might, and this isn't for consideration today, have a medallion for Samuel McDowell that would be awarded to people to keep that name in front of folks.
I have an image that I have created. I'd like to work with creating a procedural stipulation on what that might be. But I envision that award, if it ever becomes approved by this body, that it would be a uniquely significant award once annually to a criteria that is yet to be created.
Thank you, Judge. And then with all the considerations that we had in discussions when all the folks were in from all across the country to celebrate Judge Samuel McDowell, I proposed to the judge that since we have both the meeting house and, more importantly, from the concept of court, the courthouse restoration in logs, on our campus at Constitution Square, that I came up with the idea of a plaque going in acknowledging Samuel McDowell. The judge had a better idea, a stand with a good sign, similar to what's out at the battlefield, explaining the incredible role of Judge Samuel McDowell.
Not attached to the cabin.
Yeah, out front of it as you're walking in. I feel very confident that the McDowell family and all their kinfolk, both here in the county and all across the nation, would be very find that very satisfactory.
So I would like for you to present that the potentiality to the committee at some point in time. Okay, she's no longer on the committee.
Right, well, and we're on the committee, so we're assigned to the committee.
You gonna ask for a donation from them?
Or what you recommended, Tom? You've told me a long time, and I don't understand what.
Well, he's recommending that the Conference and Education Center at Constitution Square be renamed as presented on this document, which we have a motion to rename it, and we have a second. Is there any discussion before this group?
Well, what are we not renaming it? The one that's on here?
Craddock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The one that's on here.
Magistrate Salmon's, all we do every time we meet is negotiate, and I think that this is a good opportunity to show some deference to an amazing committee that we have. I'm not 100% satisfied, but I think that the McDowells will be satisfied with the recognition that the judge came up with. And that'll be at a later date that we'll consider that.
I agree. Questions, comments, discussion? Yes,
I guess,
sir.
if somebody that's on the committee, and I guess, Julie, you may be the only person that was on the committee and no longer, I would like to know what the discussion, how the discussion centered around Mr. Craddock and his, being a slave owner, and with the significant African-American heritage that's celebrated and part of that site after the birthplace of Kentucky, how that was handled and addressed.
It was very carefully discussed. Robert Craddock, I didn't know much about Robert Craddock until Carolyn Crabtree said, this man has been phenomenal to the education, not only in Kentucky, but the first school for black children, and not only on his properties, but black children in his whole area of Bowling Green. He felt very strongly about education, free education for all children. That was our main interest with it being the schoolhouse, that we honor his dedication to education of all people, and that he used part of his, and it says in here, of his estate to fund Kentucky education for many, 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 many decades. Carolyn said it could still be there for all we know. And so we talked about Samuel McDowell. We listened to every member on the committee, and there were some that had some opinions, and at the end of the day, this is the one that they felt was more appropriate for that building. Samuel McDowell does have a place in the park. I think everybody agreed to that. But for this building, we felt like the education tie was the right way to go.
And I think that's important information.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
it very much does, and I think it's just important to hear that
Sure.
backstory and to know that as part of the decision-making process.
He freed all his slaves and gave them his estate when he died. They could stay there. They could leave. He really, I think, took a lot of introspect into slavery as he was dying, and I think he was a model citizen for many. And Willis Russell would not have been successful in what he did without Robert Craddock.
And you might mention James Hunt's role on the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Hunt is on the committee, and he did vote in favor of this. So, and that was a big consideration of ours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
That's why you put the committee together.
Right.
That's why we formed the committee, guys.
Right, and I think, and I just wanted to make sure that that was known and stated for the record.
Well, you gotta have clarity on stuff, so.
Call for the question.
Question's
Jamie,
been
we wanna
called.
make sure that was known for the
All
newspaper.
those are approval of the name change for to become the Captain Robert Craddock Conference and Education Center, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Only
Motion carries.
question I have is so we'll rename that, will we pay for the the plaques, or is that something that?
That will be something that we will have to incur, that may
Duane
change.
will be responsible for getting the signs
Yeah.
changed and everything.
Right. Okay, motion made to approve the comp agreements by Magistrate Cullen, second by Magistrate Simmons, I think. I
I
already
beat him,
announced.
I beat him.
Okay.
They got a rock, paper, scissors.
Is there any discussion on compensation?
Nope.
All right, compensatory. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Next, we have lost our lone shelter cleaner,
I make motion we approve it.
so I'd like to advertise.
We have a motion to approve an advertisement for
I'm making up for all the time I took with Marty. I got you.
for a shelter cleaner, and it was made by Magistrate
Cullen
and seconded by Magistrate Simmons, and therefore, is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approval to advertise for a shelter cleaner, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. What else do we have?
That's it for me.
The 3 parts.
Shannon, if you could stay real
Okay,
quick though.
I'll stay.
I just was gonna ask while she's here, this is part of my committee report, is the insurance information from our finance and insurance committee. And I just wanted to, first of all, get your all's help and make sure I'm not missing anything that I need to get, that we need to get approved today. So I'm sorry, is that okay? If we-
And just one other thing, we have, what, 3 days to get our stuff in?
Yes.
Or could you speak to those 3 parts so that we know?
The 3 parts were the questionnaire, either you did it online or filled out the form at the Wellness Center. Your biometric screening that was done at the Wellness Center, and then the blood work.
Good.
I still have the bruise. I'm just gonna show that.
All
I
right.
haven't
has
done
to
the
be
bond.
done.
Why don't you go
I haven't
ahead.
done that one because they couldn't get in.
We'll go ahead and
You
move
gonna
into
read-
the
you said
committee
they'd redo
reports,
that.
and we'll let Magistrate Gay start out with his committee report.
Yeah, I just wanted, because I didn't want Shannon to get away from here, because I think I might need some help with
Okay.
finishing up my committee report.
We have till October 31st to do the,
All 3 parts.
Now, I'm covered on HIPAA on the fat content, right?
Well, I like to get that other part done, but if it's not available, what we
Did they
gonna
take
do?
a measurement of your head, Tom? I didn't know.
Everyone come up
You'll
and
get
see
it,
me.
you'll get it.
All right, moving right along, let's hear what you gotta say.
All right, so the Finance and Insurance Committee met on 10/14, and it was myself, Magistrate Simmons, Shannon, Judge Hunt, Julie was there in attendance, not officially an employee at the time, but in attendance. Angie Muncy, and then Lisa Stams and Robin Curry from Cheryl Morgan. And they gave us an update and recommendations for our healthcare plan, and they basically updated us on one of the things they pointed out was the fact that our costs per employee are down slightly compared to last year. And it's just like within $400 or $500, but it is down, so that's a good thing. And then they gave us the stop loss update is that they mentioned that we have lots of interest in our business, which is a good sign. We have several companies interested in our business, and that firm proposals were due on that Friday of that week. And once those are in, we'll set up a follow-up meeting to review, and that meeting has been set up for next Wednesday, I believe.
The 4th.
The 4th.
Yeah.
Hard to believe we're already flipping the page and turning into November here. But so next Wednesday at 9 a.m., we're gonna meet again.
10.
I'm sorry, 10 a.m. to talk
Better
about
call me.
our stop. Right. Then we reviewed our plan design, compared to benchmarks, and the committee, all of us, Magistrate Simmons particularly led this charge, but emphasized the importance of continuing to provide the best and most cost-effective plan that we can for county employees. And then the recommendations, and this is where I'm gonna need a little bit of help, maybe filling in some gaps here. Because I'll include this with our minutes, the document that they gave us as the recommendations. But one of them is to adopt an overall out-of-pocket maximum of $8,550. I guess that's based on individual or family.
Right.
And then $17,000 or $17,100, but retain our current medical out-of-pocket maximums. And the proposed date on that is to go into effect on 1/1/21. So that was one recommendation.
It's terrible.
The other recommendation, and that's where I'll need Shannon to help me review some of the actual, because there's a difference between,
The family.
that's where I was getting a little confused myself, the out-of-pocket maximum, including the deductible, the 2,000, 4,000, and the 3,000, 6,000, and this is the maximum amount, right? And that's
Yes.
where, so we can talk more about that.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is to increase the premium by $50 per month for employees who do not have an annual physical. And so basically, it creates a $50 per month penalty, if you will, for employees that do not have an annual physical, with the emphasis being the importance in cost savings of having an annual physical each year is that significant within the insurance world.
What are the parameters of what is defined, because they're all over the board on the physical?
Right, and one of the things I'll point out about that recommendation is that it goes into, they're recommending it go into effect 1/1/22.
Got plenty of time.
So we'd have time to sort that out.
Good.
Then they're also recommending that we consider adopting reference-based pricing, and they indicate and show that that would result in a 20% cost savings by doing that. That also would go into effect 1/1/22. They're recommending that we adopt a spousal eligibility policy, and that would go into effect 1/1/22. And what that means is that if employees have spouses that have jobs that provide health insurance for that person, then we need to encourage people to get on their other employee health insurance policy.
That's been a perpetual problem with many employers, putting the bill when they should not be. And that's something that we really need more than just a recommendation.
Well, if you got a spouse that's got insurance with her company, guess what? She's gonna take that insurance with that company.
It hasn't
Because
always
the
been that
cost,
case.
the cost the other way is so much higher if she goes on my plan than if she takes it with that other company.
It usually depends on, I mean, I know you guys are insurance, but it usually depends on which one has a better deductible, which one has, lower costs or whatever here or there.
That's true too, but cost-wise, you gotta look at that too.
Yeah.
Well, I understand. And
Cost-wise means
so this is,
anything.
Yep.
this is your committee report?
Yes.
Is that what you're doing? I really would like to see this on paper, I mean, I know you're trying to read it best you can or whatever, but this is one of those things I personally would like to really read and digest, because
No,
these
and I
are
agree.
signiall things.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
gonna get
that
you
look.
all a copy of the whole packet.
Yeah, I like to see it.
Well,
See,
I think Magistrate Sam is there, and he has an insurance background, and he had some questions, and he had some statements to be
Well,
made
I have
during the,
insurance
during the
background too,
conversation, but I'll tell you, I don't wanna speak for you, Phil, I think you came away understanding that there's a lot of improvements and cost savings elements to the recommendations that they're giving us.
Right.
And we have time to deliberate on 2 or 3 of the issues.
Yeah, and that's the point that I'm needing help from
That's what he's
Julie and
saying.
Shannon here on
Most of it ain't gonna, the big changes ain't gonna
decisions we
affect
need to make
for a year.
right now, and what can, some of this is obviously down the road that we've got time to study and get more information.
Okay.
The last one on this part of it is the explore shared on-site employer-sponsored clinic opportunities. And so this is, I guess I view this as being something that we could partner with, like city and county, different entities in the community, and you partner and you get some cost
And Mark
savings.
Morgan was gonna put those suggestions together and start working those to see what responsiveness he had to the clinic creation.
Right.
And we're not there yet, but it's a no cost to us, but a cost saver to the overall program by having a clinic that you can go to and not have to wait weeks to get in to see a doctor or a PA, or you could also get your prescriptions there on site, and you can, what else was it?
Your blood work can be
Your
done
blood
right
work,
there.
everything right there.
It's a
at the
20-minute
clinic.
wait, no more than 20-minute wait.
No more than the typical 20-minute wait.
And we've already, I think, had phone calls from one of the potential partners.
The center's on board.
Yeah, they're ready to go. They want this so bad, so. I
You look like you want to say something.
Mr. Morgan was representing, did you say Mr. Morgan?
Yeah,
Who was he representing when he made those comments?
No, not our Mark Morgan.
not our Mark Morgan. This
No.
is another Mark Morgan from.
Cheryl Morgan.
Cheryl Morgan,
Gotcha.
Northern Kentucky.
Okay.
Different guy.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know it's confusing. It's a different
I
guy.
got it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got it.
Same name, different guy.
It was Robin Curry that was here representing Cheryl
Okay.
Morgan.
Yeah.
Confused me a little bit.
I'm sorry about that.
I was totally so.
Took me a second too, so.
Guys, one thing that I think we looked at and that I'm always concerned about is number one is the cost, the premium. Like Ronnie says that, on, the spouse having the premium that's less than the other one. They're gonna really look at the premium. The family is, I think, first of all. And next, the thing we're gonna look at is the deductible, like on your prescription drugs and so on. What's that gonna cost me and so on. And
It's
that's
80-20, what is it, 80-20, 90-10?
you know.
If this clinic comes to fruition, the prescription drug cost there is gonna be nominal as part of it. I mean, like, you saying 80, maybe 90% savings
Well,
over going anywhere else.
That's not, a lot of that's not where your cost is. A lot of it is, if it's 80-20, if you go in the hospital, they're gonna pay 80% of it, you're gonna pay 20% of it. But another thing too, that 20% goes on your deductible. Sometimes your deductible's gotta get paid for before that even kicks in. So if you got an $8,000 family deductible, most of the time that's gotta be paid unless you got pre-existing conditions that this insurance will pay for. That will have to be paid out of your pocket first before insurance even kicks in.
As I understand it, and Jamie and Shannon, you can correct me, but if the clinic comes about, that is a cost saver to the overall plan, and it doesn't affect the benefits of our health provision otherwise. And it costs the employee nothing to go to the clinic. It's based on not what we pay, but the collaborative effort of everybody who participates on a select group.
Well, the downfall is that
That's
the
what
city
drives your
fired
cost
us.
per person.
The downfall is
What
the
you're
city under.
No, it drives it down.
Down, okay.
It
Well, that's what I
drives it
mean,
down.
it drives the cost up or down.
Yeah,
One way
well,
or
this
the other.
drives it down.
There's two other things. Cheryl Morgan said that they will solicit funds to actually pay for the clinic. They won't be coming to us.
They won't be coming to us to pay for it.
build a clinic.
Structure or infrastructure or otherwise.
And the second thing is how much more productive our employees can be, because they're not spending half a day out getting everything done. You're talking about a 20-minute turnaround to get in to see somebody, and so you're not losing a half a day of work, which is, I think, what we all have to do when we go to the doctor. So there are, I think, some benefits to at least explore it.
And that's all we're talking about at
Yeah,
this point.
Just to see if it's even possible.
Yeah, that's why,
It's
well,
kind
we
of
need
exciting.
I'd like to see a copy of it, if I can.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
on the prescription plan, the recommendation is, and this is an immediate recommendation, is to implement an acquisition cost index pharmacy pricing. It's called the ACI. And that's something that, last year when Cheryl Morgan was presenting themselves for being our new broker, that's a big part of one of the things that they talk a lot about, and is an important part of what they have been able to do and provide other entities that they work with.
And that kind of goes back to what I was getting ready to say. That was actually, when they presented that, they said this will be something that will be very beneficial since we represent the city as well. Well, the previous city manager, the short-term city manager, removed Cheryl Morgan from the process.
Oh, yeah.
So now, I don't know how beneficial that will be. I mean, I know they're going to try their hardest, but they lost a lot of that power that I think that we had.
Well, their numbers, at least what they put together, and it's in this packet that, thank you, Keegan, for copying those, is a savings of 22% or almost $93,000 of
It's a
savings.
scrap. It's upside down.
I can't help you.
True words have never been spoken.
$93,000 savings. And that is, you know, in some of these, I guess we do need to know what our decision point timetable is on some of these that need to go into effect for 1/1/21. And I would say we can, obviously, they can come, you all can look at this material, and I'm sure we can have them here at our next meeting to discuss these if we need to make any other decision points that need to be made for this year.
Well, I just think as it relates to that 1/1/21 suspense, the rest of it, we got time to, they'll be back, as we
Right.
well know.
Right. And then the last two here real quick is to adopt higher co-pays at Walgreens. We talked about that, you know, that's not a huge issue for us. We do know that there is a Walgreens in Stanford. Over in Lincoln County. And
Mercer.
There's one in Lincoln too, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have some in the area, so I'm sure we have some employees that does impact. And I guess Walgreens is just famous for having higher drug costs, and so that's part of the emphasis there. So it sounds like a lot of companies are just purposely trying to force people away from Walgreens because of their increased costs.
I could not be happier with my local Bluegrass drugstore pharmacy that we have here that's locally owned over
Amen.
Walgreens, along with several others that we have here in town. So
And then
I'm okay with that.
And so that's a 1/1/21 thing. And then the other, this last one is down the road. And that's to institute a $5 generic copay and raise the maximums on brand drugs. So that's also down the road.
Make sure Dr. Okay is in that concept. Because there are still generics that are problematic.
And then the last thing in my report real quick is there's a compliance document that's in your packet as well that just talks about the different compliance issues that they help us adhere to and meet. And so that's they've stated all those, and those are all spelled out.
We have a good rapport with
And so it was a good meeting, and I think you know, work is being done, and I think Shannon has continued to attest to the.
That's not in our packet, by the way.
The partnership. What's that? Not in your packet.
Whatever you just alluded to.
The compliance.
The compliance stuff's not in here.
In the interest of time, won't you make a motion to approve your minutes as presented? And so we
Make
can-
that motion.
We don't have it in this one.
Motion made by Magistrate Gay to approve the insurance committee minutes and seconded by Magistrate Sammons. And any further discussion on the presentation? Minutes, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Next committee report.
How about, or did we skip?
Yeah, we skipped Hinkle.
Keegan.
He got taken off.
Got him
He got taken off
Yeah.
on the new agenda.
No, he's still on there.
I'm on. Can't help you.
I was looking at the old.
I got
Thank you,
it.
Sam.
Did you get it?
All right, who's the next committee report?
No, that's not in there.
I don't know what. I'll go get it.
Judge, I actually don't have a committee report, and we'll both probably chime in here. We made an attempt on Parks and Rec, but we don't have a new director yet.
We have an intern that we have to get in touch with, and I think it'd be proper to talk with Earl, the city manager, before we go
I would
having
agree.
minutes
So we're
or
just
meetings
deferring
with
at this
his
point.
employee. Yeah, so we're gonna
Right.
defer on that one.
Just know that they need to be caught up so we can stay in.
Oh, yeah, it's
procedurally,
vitally important that we're part of this, because I know that they just made an announcement that they're going to be canceling cheerleading and basketball. But I think that primarily has to do with the lack of facilities to have them.
Yeah, that was a decision of the school system.
Schools, districts, yeah.
They'd have to clean up so many times to sanitize everything, stands and courts and locker rooms.
Big job.
Other committee reports, what about the jail committee?
Nothing at this time, no.
Nothing at this time. Other committees?
I gave all mine last meeting.
There being no other committees, we'll go around the room and do business.
The only new business that I would talk about is what's going on with the roads, and if you ever get a chance, go out there and take a look, because Magistrate Sammons is correct. This will be much more than a Band-Aid, but not a resolution to the problems on Mitchellsburg Knob. It still will have, we need to control the traffic flow on there because people speeding around a curve, there's too much potential for accidents. The one other thing about that is, right now, if there were a fire that needed a truck on Mitchellsburg Knob, we are not putting trucks on Mitchellsburg Knob. So a fire could take, the fire department could take 12 to 15 minutes more, and that is critical in case of a fire. That's why we're really staying on top of what the state's doing there. That's all.
All right, okay, thank you. Are you saying that the chief has said that they will not go down it with the?
Not until it's completed. Not until the repairs are completed.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, right, but I think most folks didn't know that was the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Magistrate Short.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The only thing I have new, we did get the playground equipment that the court gave Junction City. We did get it done, so you got a picture. You can kind of pass it around. I think Phil and them seen it, but it gives you an idea what it looks like. And it's real nice.
Looks great.
It looks real good. And
So did you use that digger or did you just prop yourself up with it?
no, I used that digger.
I heard that Magistrate Short's putting pictures of his blisters on Facebook.
Didn't you see the post hole digger in front of him?
He thought it was an oar.
We did all of them by hand now, we didn't. But anyway, this is the day we got it finished. This is a picture we took. That when we got everything done. But now they've completed it. They put the mulch in it, and if you get a chance to go out and look at it, it looks great.
Okay. Good.
And,
Good.
You go down the slide.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Face first, if you can.
And the kids was at Junction School was on it yesterday. They was having a big time. They
That's awesome.
Forgot all them other ones. They was on that one. So.
That is a perfect county taking care of the county moment.
Right. So something new to them for them. But anyway.
All right, anything else? Thank
That's
you.
it.
That's a great picture.
Thank you for giving it to us.
Everything.
Do I have anything?
Nothing at all.
All right, go around the room. You got anything for us?
No, sir.
I just have one comment, concern, something that we really need to talk about. You know, we have 2 school districts in this county. One is struggling bad. They can't even get their students to school via their buses. I have a feeling we're going to be going down the Mercer-Harrodsburg road here real soon, and we maybe should have some conversations with our school boards to figure out the contingencies, the issues. One issue I have is, I think if I've been brought up to speed, Danville has a much higher school tax than Boyle County does. And what happens if one has to take over the other to the citizens? Will their taxes be raised? I'd like to get ahead of this, and I don't know, maybe if you want to make a call over to the superintendents to kind of get their contingency plans, but you got some problems in this community when it comes to our most precious assets here, and I'm concerned. We're already having enough problems with COVID. So, you know, for years I'd kind of saying they should probably consolidate anyway, but given where we are, this is a tough time. So, Judge, I'd ask maybe you reach out to LaFavors and to McDonald and see.
I talked to Superintendent LaFavors yesterday, and he had some intel, and I don't know if it's happened today yet or not, that the governor was going to recommend that county judge execs be more involved with the COVID-19 response as it relates to educational systems.
Mm-hmm.
So your comments are very timely. I have not
As
seen
usual.
that direction yet.
Yep.
But it should be forthcoming shortly. And we had some discussion about it, so we'll be having a lot more.
Good. Well, I have concerns about Magistrate Gay and Kay Woods District and the kids in there, you know, and just
Sure.
appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear that you'll be part of the conversations.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all I have.
Just along those same lines, and I've sent an email to the judge and the mayor and our emergency management personnel and our health department director, Mr. Blevins, and do think we need to all stay, keenly aware of what's going on with COVID, and as we go into the winter months, and I think particularly with how it relates to our healthcare system. And I do think back to Magistrate Gay, and I guess it was back in January when he started sounding the alarm bells. I think sooner than anybody else I was aware of. I know he was talking about this coming, and we still got a long way to go, I guess is what I would say. And we've got to pay close attention to it and make sure that we don't fall asleep at the wheel in this process. That's all I've got.
Thanks. Stole it.
You got anything else, sir? You I've got just a few things. Dr. Rice's presentation you were going to work on, is that still in the works?
That's, yeah, still.
I just want to keep.
There's a lot of other works going on right now. These days.
Would it be okay with you guys, in speaking of Dr. Rouch's certificate, how can we accomplish that to make sure the signature line up more appropriately on that? I think that would be, if y'all would indulge me to do that,
yeah,
I would like to do that. We'll just leave everything else the same, but re-sign.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Okay?
I just wanted, like I say, he very deserving.
Yes, absolutely.
I want him.
So we're waiting on Magistrate Gay to produce.
That's right.
The social media guidelines, I want to keep that in front of us. It'll be a process, but I do think it's something we need to do. Anything on the dog kennel litigation, sir?
Nothing new.
Nothing new, okay. The agenda, how are we gonna work the training classes tomorrow?
We'll be in here.
We'll be in here.
Because the county clerk is not meeting in this room tomorrow or Friday. They need it Thursday. So we'll have to relocate Thursday, and I will let you all know tomorrow where we're gonna relocate to on Thursday.
9 o'clock.
Okay, what time does it start?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
I heard the hub is gonna cater that.
Okay, you heard, well, that's between you and the hub.
Finally.
Did you say pizza pub?
Finally, I'd like to thank everybody around the table for their input with Marty today. I appreciate his coming. I think we raised economic development discussion. I think it's important that we continue to be a part of the process, and we need to think about the replacement of our third seat sitting on there, how we want to do it.
Yes, we do.
And I'm going to throw this out. I think it was I guess it was my original that we needed 2 citizens on there along with the judge in those seats. With what we're going through, I think maybe the replacement should be considered to be a magistrate opposed to a citizen. David did a great job, represented us well, but as I have thought about what I think will be some restructuring, magistrate along with the judge.
I like that.
And Dr. Williams should maybe be the team, if you may, to be considered by the court.
I like that idea.
Judge, if that needs formal action, I'd love to hear it.
Well, it's up to, I don't know what the process is, that's up to the judge.
At least as a recommendation.
But just I'm not naming a magistrate, I'm just saying it maybe should be a magistrate.
Well, I don't think we need to name one today, but if the court, I don't think we need a motion, but I think the court, if they're in an agreement that the vacancy left by Brother Maynard is to be filled by a magistrate which we can collectively agree upon.
Yes, sir, that's my thought too.
So, okay, we'll just move forward with that in mind.
Excellent idea.
I think the judge, and I agree, I think the judge should be the one that appoints it first, without any other discussion.
And John, I spoke with Dr. Williams this morning, actually.
Did you?
He stopped in, and he very much wants to be part of conversations.
Good.
When it comes to structuring or whatever, we're going to restructuring whatever. He feels that he's spent a good 4 years of his time.
And he has,
he has.
I appreciate him doing it. I will tell you that he and I spent about an hour talking about it, and his schedule is very busy. I respect all that he does. He brings a lot to the table, and I appreciate him being willing to serve.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what else you got?
That's it.
That's it?
Yes.
All right, I've got a few things just informationally, and then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. But I have sent a letter forward. I need to CC anybody that wants to see it, particularly you. I sent a letter forward to our district engineer, District 7, Kelly Baker, regarding the South Buster Pike Bridge and some information about that. There are some photos that I took of the bridge, and I've sent that information to not only Kelly, who's going to elevate it through his chain of command all the way to the secretary. There has already been some discussions on that. We're looking for a fine-tuned estimated cost that he had in it, that he already had, but he's looking to fine-tune it to see if it's been up to be updated. Regarding bridge replacement, if anybody doesn't know, the South Buster Pike Bridge needs to be torn down to rehab the rail in that area. Yet, they could do it today as far as I'm concerned, but they're not going to do it until I have a way forward to replace the bridge. So that's what we're talking about. I sent that letter. I also sent a copy to Representative Daniel Elliott, Senator Rick Girdler, Representative Brett Guthrie, and Senator McConnell's office for staff for information to see if there could be any assistance and help, in addition to what the state may do, because it's a county-owned bridge. Okay, it's not state. So I did that. I sent a letter off to, believe it or not, I sent a letter off, and you're going to say why, but I discussed about the value of potential internet connectivity with Starlink, which is the Elon Musk division of SpaceX. I sent a letter requesting, identifying myself, and requesting that we be considered a beta test site in the future when they drop the latitude testing down from 44 to 37, where we are here in Boyle County, to see if we can be a beta test site to explore the connectivity and the availability in the western part of the county, given our knobs. And I have a real quick definition of the knobs. There are chronicle hills that rise above 500 feet above the surrounding land, consist of steep sides composed mainly of shale and siltstone, which erode easily. Many have limestone caps that form steep cliffs over the top of the hills. The knobs of Boyle County are part of the knob region of Kentucky that forms an important wildlife habitat that stretches 230 miles from west of Louisville to the Appalachian Mountains. So there's your definition of what a knob is, and thanks to Julie Wagner for helping get that from being miles. There's some great things going on. I see some great movement in things. I'm hopeful that our continued negotiations on the bridge I will bring everybody into play that needs to be there as it relates to, especially in the magisterial district as we move forward. I can't think of anything else. What have we done? What else have we done? I think that covers most everything I want to say right now to bring you up to speed. We need to work on Samuel McDowell, the medallion, and try to get some cost estimates and things like that, and build that program. Because I am, having been in the military along with some other people in this room, awards and decorations mean a lot to a lot of people, even though they don't say it. And for anybody that hadn't seen it in my office, I do have my shadow box in there for people to see, and I'm quite proud of that. It was collecting dust at home, and I thought that it was in better purpose served, not to be so anything. She demanded I bring it in, but.
Thanks to the committee for this report.
Yes, that's an excellent document too.
It's a great document.
On the Constitution Square.
Thank you. Would
Yeah.
you all please thank them?
Absolutely.
Judge, would you please?
Absolutely.
Well, General, I appreciate you taking the South Buster Pike thing, because just yesterday, two of our excellent Boyle County deputies arrested a man at the South Buster Pike Bridge on railroad property. He was transported to our nice hotel here, charged with trespassing, trafficking heroin, trafficking opiates, trafficking drug, unspecified third degree, and trafficking marijuana. So that is a lot of stuff. That's a problem, just like Tom has a problem over in his area with some, if that bridge was gone, there's a good chance the sheriff's department would not have been able to catch this guy
Absolutely.
and get some of this crap off the streets. So, thank you very much for taking this very seriously.
And I want to credit the judge and Duane for coming out to that other end of the county, Brumfield and 34, because it is a drug haven out there, but we've made great strides with it. CSX Railroad may have ceded that to one of the 2 farms on either side, so we've got some good ideas about what we can do to resolve that problem, and for all practical purposes, get rid of the trespassers on that property.
Well, that's one other thing that I do want to mention in about 30 seconds. I did bring Kelly Baker over here. I invited him to come to Boyle. He did. We set it up. We went out and looked at Brumfield Road. We looked at Mitchellsburg Knob, the work that was in place there, what they were doing. We also looked at Corporate Drive and discussed plans to take all the 18-wheel or large truck traffic and bring them to the bypass rather than GPS taking them to the right and going down Parksville Crosspike, which is causing a lot of havoc down there. So we're working on that. And the other thing was of course, Buster Pike. And he went out and looked at that. So we spent the better part of the afternoon going to 4 places around. Oh, and Junction City, because I'm still not giving up on the battle to reduce the speed over there from 55 to 45 for about a half a mile stretch going through where that light is.
What do you think about 150 out there,
At Junction City? Oh,
No,
150?
Yes.
At Parksville Crosspike, where that hill is a dangerous thing, and they just want sign.
Up by his house.
Excuse me.
That I found something, and I'll have to go back and see where I found it, that it did address that 2 years ago, and what their District 7's recommendation was to not change anything because of this, and this. And I gotta find it, Phil.
Well, it's the way they got it. I don't understand why that whole area wasn't double yellow line across there.
Yeah.
Instead of having a little section that can, with a passing zone, right in a residential area where all those homes are.
Yes.
I don't understand it.
We'll put a bypass through your part of the property.
Well, I'll find that for you.
I'm gonna put a light there, coming out my driveway.
Does anybody
I need
wanna-
something.
Hey, I'll tell you what. No, I mean one of our good court officers brought it up. Who lives on Goggin, right there at that beginning. And this is more of a city area, but I'm half tempted to put speed bumps on Goggin there in the very beginning, because it's 35, but 65, 70 all day.
That state highway, they'll never do it.
Oh, but well, as fast as they are, it'll be a year or 2 before they catch us. So
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
For the motion,
Second.
for the discussion. Then.
Too late.
No discussion. Parliamentary rule. I would recommend
democracy,
that
not
we
parliament.
adjourn with an encouragement to all Boyle Countyans to vote. This is the most consequential election in my lifetime, and I think that would be an appropriate thing for us to do.
I will do that. Motion to adjourn made by Cullen and seconded by who? Salmons.
Salmons.
And we will, all those in favor of adjournment, and we will adjourn with the recommendation that all Boyle Counties exercise their liberty and right and constitutional right
Free
to
rights.
vote. Free right to vote for the just get out and vote. That's the most important thing. Okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We stand adjourned.
Cut the tape, Bill. I've got something for Jason here.